Welcome back to the Oddcast for episode 67, where we are going to be discussing Ferrari's new EV abomination. Albo is starting to back down on his suggested tax reforms, and the housing debate is erupting all over the globe. So grab yourself a drink, strap in, it's time for another episode of the Oddcast.
Why do you get to do that? Why is it always, it's always you. We always open on your face.
Because I'm the better looking of the two. Which is saying something.
I just feel like this is probably misandry at work. I think I'm oppressed.
Misandry?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time. Did I finally smash the patriarchy?
I think you did.
Amazing.
I think you did.
Amazing.
The glass ceiling is gone. Carly proves it.
I tell you what, I have really upset the feminist sphere.
Oh, good. What did you do this time?
Existed.
Oh, that'll do it.
Had a breath.
Yeah.
I've been putting out some videos on the timeline of woke. So you know how I was doing my dick series?
You were doing your dick. This Oddcast is off to a great start, everybody. Buckle up.
I look at your face and I just think dickhead.
No, that doesn't make it better. You're not helping. She's reaching for the record button. She's like, abort, we're going to start this one again.
You know how I'm doing my big dick series?
I do, yes. You might have brought it up once or twice or 45 times, yes.
You know, it's really interesting because you have long form. You can do 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You could do an hour if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I get 3 minutes with a reel.
Well, it's your choice to do reels, but yeah.
No, I would like to do YouTube, but that adds a whole other...
Yeah, I have to actually work at that point. It's
I need an editor at that point. That's
true.
going to take me ages. Anyway, enough about that. Stop
I'm sorry.
like derailing my conversation.
Have a little...
Putting the camera on me. There we go. Right. So I put up a couple and it was like the storyline of Stalin, right? And the people who geeked out loved it, but the people who wanted to learn history, it was a little too dry for them. Even though I put like some animations in there or whatever.
Yep.
And apparently, you guys can confirm this, I don't have kids, but apparently they're not doing history in schools anymore. They call it humanities and they water it down so it's more favourable to minorities.
Right.
And so a lot of the stuff that this is categorically what happened. This is, history, yes, okay, by the victor. But as in, on this date it happened and then this happened and then this happened and it's too dry. So now I'm like, okay, how do I get people to be a little bit more excited to learn history in a way that's engaging? So I try
and colouring in a dick isn't doing it for people.
Well, that was the whole point of the colouring book.
Yeah, I know.
To make history a little bit more engaging. Anyway, maybe I should encourage people to draw dicks. I could hide dicks in the pictures. Find all the dicks.
Now we're talking. Now, can I just make a reflection here? Don't lose your place because I want to hear what you've got to say. But you just said you're making 3-minute Instagram form history lessons and people find that too dry.
Yes. And
Houston, we have a problem.
Do you know how hard it is to actually get it down to 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Like I do series as well now, but it's so hard to be accurate and to give enough nuance and context in 3 minutes. And then you'll get people in the comments going, well, actually this happened. I'm like, dude, I get 3 minutes.
You didn't mention this.
Yeah.
I had 3 minutes, buddy.
I had 3 minutes, Mo. And anyway, if you go too close in on history, like you talk about the Red Terror, people don't know anything about everything else.
You've got to give them the context.
So I'm like, okay, where do I start in history? Like wind back the book and then just go,
in the beginning.
Here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about wokeism because we all talk about wokeism, right? We know what's going on. So I can talk about Lenin, Stalin, Marxism, all through that. And I'm weaving it through. And I did part one.
So can you do that arm again? You do that well. Yeah.
Ooh, former dancer,
nice.
can you tell? I gave them part one last week, did really well. And I put up part 2 yesterday where I'm talking about what happened in the 60s and 70s and how they did the long march through the institutions.
Yeah.
And that really upset a lot of uni students and Gen Zs who are currently going either through academia or have been involved in academia in the last 20 years. Because, boy, they do not like having their ideas challenged. Which is...
That's odd.
It is odd.
I mean, university is all about challenging ideas, isn't it? That's
Isn't
what it says on the brochure.
Isn't the whole point to learn how to think,
Yeah,
not what to think?
I'm sure I've read that in at least one of their brochures.
100%. So, yeah, that was me just pissing off feminism yesterday because I was talking about how wokeism is just Marxism rebranded for the modern era. That's all it is. same ideas. It's more cultural Marxism, but still, same thing.
So I'm not sure how many people would be familiar with this. Socialism was tried in America when they first landed. Everyone says, "Oh, Marx come up with this." No. There was a full-blown Marxist experiment in where's Plymouth Rock, where they first landed. They had the principle of the common storehouse. And William Bradford, if I'm remembering rightly, was the guy who was in charge. Governor William Bradford was in charge of the first sort of colony that was set up by the very first white people that began to settle on the continent. And he had this philosophy of a common storehouse. And he based it on what I think to be a misunderstanding of Scripture. I've come to the exact opposite conclusion based on how I understand Scripture, but nevertheless, he saw and read the Bible a certain way and said, aha, this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be amazing. It was not amazing. Long story short, lots of death, starvation, lack of productivity,
seems to be
poverty.
that reoccurring theme with socialism,
It's
the
just
whole
because they
death
haven't
thing.
done it right.
100%. We've seen it try it one more time.
You can't blame Governor William Bradford. He was kind of the first, so of course he stuffed it up. But to his credit, after 2 years, he went, not working. And then he went to the complete opposite end, which is the hyper-capitalist, like, this is yours, that's yours, private property. If anyone takes something that isn't theirs, we're going to punish them, blah, 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 which is my understanding as I read my Bible. I look at it and go, yeah, that's pretty clear. Anyway, that worked a little better. Just a tiny, incy little bit better. And that continent became the wealthiest place that the universe has ever seen in sort of 200 years.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's interesting arguing with them. I had this girl yesterday. So what they do, when they get triggered, they go to everyone who's commented on your post and they respond to that person's comment. Great for my engagement. Love that. Keep doing that. But, they're like, where's your facts? Prove it. Name your source. And then she goaded me. She's like, I don't think you've ever read Marx. And I'm like, lady, let me tell you, if there is one thing I have nerded out about, it's communism.
Yeah, right.
It's actually a little embarrassing how much of a nerd I am about communism.
Yeah, and you give me a hard time for playing tabletop miniatures games set in the Lord of the Rings universe. Like, come on. Marxism is more of a fantasy universe than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and that is a hill I will die on.
To be fair, I read the Communist Manifesto. I think I was 15.
Yeah, right.
I was young because I was obsessed with Stalin. I just found it so fascinating.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, and she's like, you've never read Marx. I'm like, I see what you're saying. I haven't arrived at the same conclusion as you, so therefore you're deciding that I haven't read it properly.
You couldn't possibly have read that material and not been convinced.
And not
been persuaded.
Correct. Yeah. And it's so interesting to me because it doesn't matter if it's this random chick or whoever else that's commenting. They all have the exact same talking points to the point where it's actually a little bit...
Can I just put this...
No. Absolutely not. I
wouldn't want to knock it over near me.
Banned. Go away. Go away.
Wow, touchy.
We've learnt the lesson.
Gosh.
No liquids near Black Mac. Ever. I
tell you, some people are just not accommodating at all.
I just got it back. I can't go through it again. I can't. I'm traumatized.
So what are you going to do now? All the entire feminist sphere is mad at you, but obviously not mad enough because, if they were all super mad at you, your views would be like in the hundreds of millions and you'd be rich.
I'm hoping that I get a little bit more of them angry.
You just need to poke them a bit harder.
Yeah, I was like, God, maybe I'm not going hard enough. I got accused of being a fence sitter and I was like, ooh, okay, challenge accepted.
That hurts, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll dig in.
If you want to piss me off, do that.
Yeah, fence sit.
No. Tell me.
You're a fence sitter.
That I'm, like there are certain issues that I won't take a strong side on, but those are the exceptions.
Yeah.
I am most of the time like flag planted. This is where I stand.
I think I do.
You are too.
I think I do that, but I don't do it from no, you know what it is? It's the political spectrum. They're trying to put you on this side or this side. There is no grey to them. Yeah. Where we know it's a horseshoe, but also a horseshoe is not flat. You can zoom out. I'm there. I'm zoomed out. I actually don't care about left and right anymore. It's nonsense.
And we're seeing so much, the evidence that the extreme left and the extreme right are the same thing is now overwhelming. There was a period there. So during the Second World War, it was obvious that they were the same thing. The communists and the fascists, it was very, very clear that they were the same thing. The one thing they disagree on, the fascists will allow private property ownership, and the communists are like, but that's everything. That changes everything. No. The government is in complete control of the businesses. So fascism says you can own it, but we will control it.
Yeah.
Communism says we will control and own it.
Yeah.
But that's really, it's a distinction without a difference. And so we saw during the Second World War what the Marxists did to their own people and to the people they conquered, and what the fascists did to their own people and to the people they conquered. Well, yeah, they had slightly different objectives and aims, but fundamentally we're talking millions of people killed for no good reason on both sides of that. And not just combatants either. Like, we're talking enormous numbers of civilians, in the Russian case, just thrown into combat, but they weren't combatants. They weren't soldiers in any meaningful sense of the word. Anyway, so there was a period of time there during the Cold War, and that's where the march through the institutions happened, and that's where institutionally in our history was written in such a way to try and make sure that, oh no, fascism and communism aren't the same. We like communism. Communism's good and virtuous and compassionate and all the rest of it. Socialism is it's not quite communism, but it's so much better than that greedy, awful capitalism, because capitalism's halfway to fascism.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to be a fascist.
And you wouldn't want to be halfway anywhere. Oh, wait.
And so there was a period of decades there where they really tried to drive this wedge and make us believe that fascism and communism weren't basically identical twins. But they are. And what's really fun is watching now, the emergence of the woke right is what some people have called it, and watching all these sorts of bun fights unfold and just going, I'm listening to someone on the right and I'm listening to someone on the left, and you're the same person.
The same.
And also, you're the same as the extreme feminist.
Yep.
So the white supremacist is the same as the Marxist, is the same as the feminist. They just have a different word. It's the MacGuffin. In story writing and film writing, every episode of Star Trek had the MacGuffin. Oh, we need to get down to that planet to get the thing to be able to fix to be able to get home, right? It's the MacGuffin. It doesn't matter what that thing is. It's the objective, right? And they're interchangeable. You get the episodes of Star Trek and you're like, yeah, pretty quickly you start to realize they're just, we need the MacGuffin. That's what the whole thing's about. And so the MacGuffin changes between communism, fascism, feminism. Islam is another one that I put in the same absolute basket. The MacGuffin changes. The language changes in the middle, and therefore who they hate changes, but they are functionally basically identical ideologies.
They all exist in this same little echo chamber. And I've said this about the right for a while now. I'm like, hang on a minute. You're sounding exactly like the wokies. You are so stuck, and it's like you're wearing concrete boots.
Yep.
You cannot get out of your position. You're like, no, I will not change.
Yep.
I will not hear reason. And this is actually exploding on X at the moment. I've only seen bits of it. I'm not really paying attention, but the whole debate around ethno-nationalism, that's erupting. And I just look at it and I go, you spoiled little brats. We have got so many genuine issues in this country, like genuine issues. That's where your attention is.
Yeah.
On my skin color, my heritage, where I came from. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but 1 in 4 of us has DNA from Genghis Khan. So when you want to think about it, we're actually
that guy was busy. I mean, you gotta give.
How did he fight the wars if he's constantly
Don't know. I don't want to know.
Don't say it.
Yeah,
really.
but here's
PG.
let me save you from you. Whatever that was, I don't want to hear it. The thing for me is we're sitting here looking at a country that is going backwards rapidly because of a guy called Anthony Albanese, who is white-skinned and European heritage, thanks to a treasurer called Jim Chalmers, who is white-skinned and European heritage. Before him, we had this absolutely useless bag of crap called Scott Morrison, who was white-skinned and European heritage.
We had a woman who was also white-skinned with red hair, who's repealed rights for women.
Yeah, who's the reason why we're in this absolute nonsense. And then, Kevin Rudd, etc. Like, I'm sorry, if you agree that this country is going backwards, how have you concluded that it's because of anyone other than white Europeans that's doing that? Now, I'm not anti-white European, let me be very clear. What I'm saying is that within any given ethnic group, you've got makers and you've got takers. You've got people who believe in freedom and people who believe in oppression. The problem with Australia right now is not, oh no, we let people with a different ethnic heritage and a different skin colour come into our country. No. We've got way too many takers. Most of them are politicians. We've got way too many idiots who do not believe in freedom, and we've allowed those people to pursue power and to get it. And that's what we actually need to stop. You could kick out every immigrant hypothetically from this country and we will just become a white ghetto instead of a mixed race ghetto. Yep. We will still become a ghetto. Why? Because we're allowing stupid people to get elected and run this country into the ground, and they happen to have white skin. Yep. So don't tell me this is a skin color problem.
Yeah, the whole skin thing, I'm like, This is embarrassing, guys.
Yeah.
Really? That's it for you? It's low IQ shit. I don't have time for it. And the whole ethno-nationalism debate, I'm like, well, clearly you don't understand Australian history.
Well, or world history, but also the speech by Martin Luther King about the content of your character. I dream of a world where people are judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. I agree with that philosophy, and we can take it further. There's a thing that's referred to by people who study this stuff as your unchangeables versus your changeables.
Yeah.
So if you're born with a birth defect, that's not your fault. That's not something that you should be proud of, nor is it something you should be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And that's true of everything that you're kind of born with. Oh, you're really tall. Yeah, I am. That's a fact. That's a statistic about me. But I don't get to be proud of my height.
Yeah.
It's a virtue of my DNA and the fact that my parents gave me a decent diet when I was a kid. I don't, now if someone works out at the gym and they've got really good muscles, well, you go, okay, that was work. That was choice. That was sacrifice on your part. If someone's naturally got a high IQ, that's not something to be proud of. But if someone has focused that and trained that and made effort and investment into that to turn that into something, well, then that becomes something you can be proud of. The things that you can control are things that you can be proud of. When I watch people being proud of the things they had no control over, I look at them and I go, you must have nothing to be proud of that was actually you.
Yeah.
If you're proud of the things that you had no control over, no investment in, you must have never invested in anything worthwhile.
But isn't it funny how we went from like Martin Luther King and having the civil rights revolution to now everything's back to immutable traits all of a sudden?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to sound like Peter Malinowskis here, he does have a point, right? About the who's going to wipe your bums, right? Like, I think it's a terribly racist thing to say.
One of Elon Musk's robots.
Well,
that's and I tell you what, when that thing malfunctions, all about.
I was going to say, like, you end up impaled. I don't know if I want that.
Well, I figured out how to save money.
How?
Well, cost of living crisis. I have actually figured out how to save $86.50 every day, by switching to single-ply toilet paper. Now, hang on. Let me break it down. I save 50 cents a day because I'm using single-ply toilet paper. The other 86 I'm saving because that's the normal co-payment for a colonoscopy, and I'm giving myself one every single morning. So that's
too much.
I mean, at this rate, I'll be buying a new car, come December.
Oh, that's disgusting. That is too much information. What was I even talking about?
We were talking about Peter Malinowskis. I was trying to get onto a more wholesome topic than Peter Malinowskis, but apparently I failed.
You wanted to talk about having a colonoscopy.
Well, self-delivered, I mean, look, it doesn't have to be a colonoscopy. It can be a rectal exam. There's other ways to view it.
So I have this same thing that I would say to a socialist. I had a socialist yesterday doubling down on the whole working is slavery. That's the thing we talked about with Peter, what's his name?
Having to replace the things that you consume is slavery. Okay, yeah, cool, interesting.
So the thing about work, right? Okay, I understand it from a socialist point of view. They don't want to work. Okay, that's fine. But they still want someone to work, just not them.
Yeah, that's right. And so they actually believe in slavery because they believe that they can take the product of someone else's labour and not have to pay them.
And so I made that point to them, this is such a stupid point. Like, you could say this is a straw man, but it's not. Okay, work is slavery. I hear you. So no one should work. So who grows our crops? Who's checking on the power grid? Who's making sure that your Wi-Fi works? Like, what are you going to do when your plumbing fails?
Yeah.
Nothing? Yeah. No, there's no one, because no one wants to work.
Who is milking those damned almonds for your latte in the morning?
Well, and this is the thing. Who's going to be your barista? Because work's slavery. And her whole thing was like, well, it's voluntary. I'm like, you're right. Your profession is voluntary. They're like, no, well, if someone actually wants to be a barista, they can. I'm like, you mean like right now? And they get paid for it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
You can opt to be a barista and get paid.
That's right.
What a wonderful world.
Well, and so here's this amazing thing when you discover the power of free choice. People who want to have jobs can go and find jobs. People who want to employ somebody to do a job can go and find people that want the jobs, and then they can figure out how much they should get paid for that job. I think did we just invent capitalism?
Yeah. And that's the thing. All roads lead back to capitalism.
New idea, everybody. No one's ever thought of it before. Let's actually have voluntary exchange.
But this is what I mean about not, like, this is a university person, right? Like, they've graduated, whatever, gender studies, who knows. They don't get taught how to think or how to splice up an argument. They're just like, that's the line. So whenever someone says capitalism's good, you go, no, it's this.
Yeah.
Then what? It's so superficial.
Yep.
back to the Malinowskis thing. So I'd say the same
I'm trying
thing.
so hard to get you off the Malinowskis train, and you are on
I am
those
there.
rails.
We're going to this destination. I would say the same thing to the ethno-nationalists. Okay, fine. You let's just say we do mass deportations.
Deportations. It
Deportation.
sounded like you were saying something else there. But moving on.
Repatriate. What do you call it? Repatriate.
The remigration, I think, is the phrase they've
It's a new
invented
one.
for it. Yeah.
We just keep inventing fake phrases. Anyway, let's say we do that. We do exactly what these ethno-nationalists would want. Okay, well, Chocky, you're out, mate. You're arguing for this, but you'd be first gone because he's Colombian with Greek parents. So your parents be gone too.
I actually don't even know. I haven't paid any attention.
Anyway, so
Because I
let's
don't
say we're
actually
left.
care about the colour of somebody's skin,
Let's
unlike
say
these guys.
we're left with all the Caucasians. Okay, cool. Who's going to delegate who to do the shit jobs?
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah,
you want all these people gone? Okay, fine, they're gone. Who among you is going to volunteer to do the shit jobs? And I'm guaranteeing most of you won't want to.
So-
I don't want to go pick crops. I don't want to go work in
yeah.
7-Eleven from midnight till 7 a.m. I don't want to go and have to work in the old people's home and white bums.
So a lot of people got pissed off with David Farley. He's the new One Nation
Yes,
MP who got
yep.
voted in the Farah by-election. Now, they got pissed off with him because he did communicate it poorly the first time around. Then he's improved his structure of what he says now. But he basically said, guys, we do actually need immigration. We can't just cut it off completely. We do actually need some of these people. Why? Well, because our agriculture industry does actually depend on people coming in and doing work. And I've made the point, Aussies don't want to do these jobs. And I get flamed for it. Don't you dare insult young Australia. Don't you? When I was a kid, I blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay,
They don't want to do the jobs.
But talk to the people that actually are trying to get people to do the jobs, and you'll find out that Aussies don't want to do it. Oh, well, if they just paid a fair price, that becomes the fallback position. To which I reply, okay, but how much more are you willing to pay for Australian-made produce? You want us all to buy Australian-made, but you're about to double the price of some products. For some products, the most expensive thing is the process of picking it and getting it in bulk to be packaged and then taken to retail. It's that getting it off the tree, off the plant, into that pipeline towards retail. That's the most expensive step out of the entire process for some products. So if we go from, oh, no, you can't pay them $10 an hour. These are Aussies. We're going to get good Australians, and you've got to pay them enough that they want to go out there and work. Well, that's going to be at least $30 an hour.
Yep.
No one's driving out to Mildura to do that kind of work for anything less than $30 an hour. Probably you're going to have to pay them more.
Yep.
And that's going to show up directly in the cost of Australian produce.
100%.
Sorry, nothing is free.
It's already there. So I'm doing a whole reel series on polyester fashion because people love to blame greed. It's late stage capitalism.
Yep.
I'm like, no, it's not late stage capitalism at all. It's actually the cost of doing business now. And this is thanks to a lot of government regulations, the fact that we have really high wages in this country. No one wants to work for anything less than $30 an hour. And then they want all these extra things on top of it. And then everything's taxed within an inch of its life. It's like, okay, so you're only, what do you call it? Point of, oh God, what's the word I'm trying to say? The only thing that you can play with, right? The only knob you can turn is the fabric. So everything else has to be paid for. The only
you've got to
thing
drop your input costs.
yeah,
and
you
that's
have to
the
drop
last
the
one.
cost of your fabric,
Yep.
and then people go to polyester. And so I've been presenting this argument, and someone said to me like, "Oh, we should be paid a fair wage, whatever." I'm like, "Sure." But then you have to pay for the cost of the goods.
right.
You can't have both.
So can we break that down? And this is something I have covered before. So apologies to long-time viewers.
Lever,
But
that was the word I was looking for.
I haven't touched this particular thing for a little while. And if you've seen my long-form podcast that I did with the unemployables guys, I broke this down in detail with them as well. There is a single knob that we can turn that fixes this problem. But to my knowledge, gosh, I'm so gummed up. I need something to clear my nose. There's no one else talking about this in this way. I think I've distilled it down to a layer that I haven't heard anyone else talk about before. The fundamental problem is the gap between what we cost the person that employs us, which they have to then replace that cost through their prices, right? Versus the purchasing power that we're actually left with which to pay the prices that are then set to recover the full cost.
Yep.
Now that's true for wages, but it's also all your inputs. It's there is the difference between what it costs out of pocket, what it costs the business owner, what it costs the consumer, and what the other person actually gets in purchasing power. Let me explain that, and it's easiest to do in the case of a wage, although it applies right across the board. So let me do it in a wage. If you're getting the median full-time Australian salary, what is it now, about $80,000 a year? Let's call it 80. Then you don't get the purchasing power of $80,000. you get the purchasing power of $80,000 minus your income tax, which
Yep.
I don't know what that's going to be, $18,000, $15,000, something like that. So you're getting somewhere a little bit over 60, but actually you don't get that because every time you buy a product, there's GST added on top of most of them. So
Or excise.
and then there's fuel excises and so forth. And then actually a lot of the other things that you buy, you don't buy because you want to. You have to pay for them. Things like your council rates, things like stamp duty. Every time you move house, every 7 years or so on average for an Australian, tens of thousands of dollars of stamp duty. Well, that adds up to like $8,000 a year. That's a massive chunk of your income. And by the way, if you're renting, you're still paying that because rentals actually change hands even faster and the landlords are recouping that cost, that loss. So we're all paying for stamp duty all of the time. And then you add, your excises, all the other licenses and fees and charges. By the time it's all said and done, I did the full maths on this over 10 years ago. And you end up with less than 50% of your headline salary in actual purchasing power. So that means the money that actually goes into the goods and services that you wanted, the rest of it is taken by government in various forms. But it gets worse because you didn't cost your employer $80,000. You cost your employer $80,000 plus your superannuation, which you don't get to use. That doesn't add to your purchasing power. Right, so now we've blown it out by a whole lot more, plus payroll tax and then the HR departments and all the costs that aren't tax costs, but they are regulatory costs, compliance costs in employing people.
Work cover, all that
So
sort of
by
stuff.
the time it's all said and done, you've cost your employer something like $100,000 and your actual purchasing power is something like $45,000. The reason why this matters is because every price out there is set to recover the full costs, all the input costs, the $100,000, and you're trying to pay it with $45,000. And if it feels like you just can't catch up, it's because you can't.
100%.
Then you look one layer deeper and you hear socialists saying, they should pay a living wage. It's all, the unions are like, we're going to get an increase in our salary. Yeah, but if you push your salary up from 80 to 90, the costs for the business don't go up by $10,000. The cost of the business go up by $12,000 or $13,000, and your income doesn't go up by $10,000. Now you're in a higher tax bracket. All the other things, your actual spending power that you have has only gone up by $4,000. So actually, prices are going to have to rise 3 times faster than your actual spending power is rising in your salary. Well, this is a dog chasing its tail and somehow falling further and further behind. The solution, the knob, the dial that we need to turn to fix this problem is the delta, the difference between what, in this example, an employee actually costs an employer and the amount of purchasing power they actually get in the real world. Narrow that gap and all of these problems go away.
I'll give you an example of this playing out because, like I always say, I pay attention to the comments. So there's a big store in Australia called Mecca. It's the beauty store, right? And it's a Aussie success story, like Joe Hogan.
And they've one of those ones where they've got every makeup brand imaginable. It's like a makeup department store.
Yes, it is. And they
don't ask me how I know.
I'm sure Eddie spends a lot of money there.
I'm too ashamed to answer.
And Mecca grew out of South Yarra. They had a little store there on Turak Road, and then it grew into this it's national now. I think they've even got international. Anyway, Joe's now worth $1 billion, and they have a thing called the Beauty Loop, right? Which is basically a little rewards thing every quarter. And so, and this is the thing, people have become so skeptical about stuff and so cynical that they can't see a positive in anything anymore. So so the way it works is
not even $1 petrol apparently.
No. And this is an attitude issue. It's not the brand. Okay. So first thing is, Mecca has exclusivity on a lot of the brands coming into Australia. She has the exclusive distribution. Okay. And obviously that's to help her be competitive. Right. So if you could get the same product at like every other store, why would you go to Mecca? And so Mecca now is big enough to have a store in nearly every single big shopping centre. So there's a chance that it'll be there alongside there'll be a Country Road and a Myer or whatever, right? That's how big they are. And plus they have online. And so they have exclusivity with a lot of brands, and the way Mecca run is they don't necessarily do sales. And I would say most Australians have been conditioned to wait for sales thanks to Black Friday.
Oh, these days, if there isn't a sale on, I'm shocked.
100%, and people just
always
wait.
a sale.
Yeah, and people expect it, and we'll get to that. Put a pin in that.
I have pinned it.
Yeah. So Mecca does this thing called a beauty loop, and depending how much you spend annually depends on where you register on level 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's another one. And so every quarter,
5.
I think there's 4, but there's a 5th one for very big spenders.
They don't call it 5.
No, it's the High Rollers Club.
Well, it's confusing
it's so exclusive. I think you have to spend $10,000 a year, which is a lot. I don't know who's spending that on cosmetics.
I tell you what, even I could be pretty for 10 grand a year on makeup.
Well, actually, makeup's really expensive now. Most products are like $60, $70. So, I mean, depending how prolific you are, you get there pretty quick. Anyway.
You're right. I'll just use a Scream mask. It's a lot cheaper.
It is cheaper. And we don't have to then suffer this. So, yeah, in these beauty loops, they get like little miniatures, little sachets, whatever.
I think I know someone who gets these.
Yeah, I get one.
Yeah, okay.
And so
well, there you go. I know 2 people.
I'm level 3. So I spend, I think it's between 1,500 to 3 grand. And so in that, occasionally you get like a good size sample.
Yep.
And that's, maybe like 4, 5, 6 wears. You'll get a good sachet and you might even get a full size product every now and then.
Yeah, right.
And often they're things that I'm like, oh, that's really nice. I would never have thought to buy that. I quite like it, whatever. And then if you're on the lower
Which, I mean, that's the business model.
That's the whole point.
It is a form of marketing.
Of course.
Yeah.
But this is what I say about the cynicalism. So the young ones go, oh, you're only giving us that because you want us to buy more. Well, yeah. But also you don't have to take it, nor do you have to buy what's in there.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, Mecca doesn't even pay for the samples. The samples come from the company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of their marketing budget.
Do you know what Mecca pays for? All the packaging, all the marketing, the online website,
the shop fronts, the staff,
the
electricity,
the distribution,
Yeah.
having to go and have those really big conversations about how to bring in a multi-million-dollar contract into this country that most stores wouldn't even, most brands in America wouldn't even bother with because we're so insignificant.
Yep.
Mecca does all of that.
Yep.
And, so I put up this little reel talking about why I think the beauty loop is amazing. But the antagonistic comments were like, it's price gouging. They never do sales. I'm like, why do they owe you a sale?
Yeah, that's
They
right.
have all the risk, all the risk. And so you were talking about the margins, right?
Yeah.
Their margins wouldn't be that high. I don't know. I've never looked at their financials. But let's say after all the distribution costs, all the import costs, all the overheads of having the actual physical stores, plus running the online, plus fulfillment, people don't understand how expensive fulfillment is.
Time consuming.
Warehouses, staff, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
After they paid all that, you still want a discount.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Let's say that they are making huge amounts of money. What that means is that they've figured out something that other people haven't at this point. The reason why super profits are possible in a free market is only because you've got an edge that consumers value in a significant way.
You got a secret sauce.
You've got something. Now, what normally happens is someone figures out something new, consumers go, we love that.
Yeah.
That person makes a truckload of money for a little while.
Yeah, and
but
then
other people jump
come
in
into the market.
and copy. And that's actually a good thing because what happens is that innovation gets commoditized. That innovation now becomes universal.
And it brings the price down.
And the prices all of a sudden come down, but the quality, the improvement is now embedded in that industry. It's now standard.
But isn't it funny about brand, right? Like, so let's take a beauty brand. I don't know, like YSL or Gucci or whatever. They have all their own makeups.
Yeah.
And then you can also go into Chemist Warehouse or you can go into Carlz and you can buy Emco Beauty or whatever's there, Revlon, whatever.
Yep.
And so we've got an attitude now that I want the Gucci though.
Yeah.
I've decided that I want the Gucci. Give it to me for the Emco pricing.
Yeah. Well, that's if it was Emco pricing, Gucci wouldn't be Gucci.
Well, this is the thing,
Right,
but this is what socialisms want. So it's the evangelists who are like, no, we need to democratize everything. Not the evangelists, but the egalitarians. Sorry, we've got to democratize everything, and then it gets to the point where everything's shit. Well, yes, because you brought the price down because you want everything on discounts.
But nothing is more democratic than a free market.
Yeah.
Every dollar is a vote. And the more value you provide to others, the more votes they will vote in your favor, and therefore the more votes you get to vote with yourself.
Yeah.
Like money is a language, and it's a voting system. We are voting for what we prioritize, what we think is. I think that's more important than that. I've got a limited amount of votes here because it turns out what I tried to do last year, no one really valued it. So I'm pretty low on votes right now. I'm gonna dole my votes out really carefully. I'm going to not vote for you. I would have if I had a few more votes, but you know what? I've only got a few and I'm going to prioritize this. That's literally what we're doing.
Yeah.
When we're on a budget and we're choosing where to spend our money.
But this is how we know that Australia is a hostile country for small business.
And government, yes.
And government, because we're sitting here having these arguments with the actual consumers themselves saying, it's voluntary.
Yeah.
You can opt in or opt out. You don't have to buy the expensive thing. The market will sort everything out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was going to bring out some hoodies. And 10 years ago when I had my clothing company, my hoodies were $150.
Yeah, right.
And everyone was like, wow, that's outrageous. I'm like, yeah, they're worth it. And they were. And people would say, oh, well, I can go to this place and get them for this. I'm like,
Go for it.
please do.
Yep.
Please do. You're not going to like bully me into dropping my prices because you want it.
Yeah.
If anything, it makes me dig my heels in.
Yeah.
And, I still have people today going, wow, I still have this. It's like a 15-year-old hoodie. I'm like, mate, probably put it in the bin. Like, I don't want to smell that thing.
You've probably spilled a bit too much coffee on it over the years.
Or the armpits. But, so people, there's this expectation. We've taught people that if you berate someone long enough, they'll eventually give in.
And if they don't, then that speaks badly of them.
Yeah, and then they do the whole online cancel thing. I'm going to boycott this brand. And it was interesting because in the comments on that reel, people were like, oh, Mecca paid you for this. I'm like,
no.
They didn't. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that with my own free will, I can do things and I don't need the financial incentive?
So we probably need to discuss this because this is clearly something that some people have never come across before. It's possible to have an opinion that no one paid you for.
That's confronting. That's shocking.
Yeah. It's possible to actually form an opinion because you believe it's correct, and then to speak publicly about that opinion because you believe it matters, even though you have no direct financial incentive. I know.
Wild.
I know.
Do you know what's funny is I've said this before on the podcast, but the amount of people who accuse me of taking money for my reels, I'm like, it's even better, guys. I get paid nothing, literally nothing to do those reels. It is a time sink. It is voluntary on my behalf.
Yeah.
And I still do it.
So Michael West Media are doing they're working on a piece to do with money in the influencer space, and they reached out to me and said, "Look,
aren't they ragey lefting?
Yeah, on a lot of issues, yes.
Okay.
But they reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to make a comment on this?" And I thought, you know what, fine, I will. And my comment to write back was basically, no one's actually ever offered me money. I'm aware that it happens. Sorry, no one's offered me secret money. It's only ever been kind of public. Dick Smith offered me $1 million. I've talked about that story before, but that wasn't hidden, secret, whatever. No one's ever done that with me. None of these lobby groups have ever bothered. And I think it's because I was around before there was money in the ecosystem. And so, the people that accuse me of only being in it for the money, I'm like, yeah, that's right. I did this for the first 10 years where there was zero prospect of money. Just because I was playing the long game. I knew it was going to pay off in the end.
Mossad was going to come around eventually.
Oh, that's right. So I'm kind of immune to that accusation, not in some people's minds, obviously, but in practice, any rational human being goes, yeah, nah, that doesn't wash with Topher's brand. And so I think that's probably why none of these groups have ever bothered with me. I've never had someone come along and go, hey, I'm going to keep this quiet, but can you speak up on this? Or, it's never happened.
Yeah.
I'm aware that it does. And so I had some backwards and forth with one of their producers, and I kind of said, look, I'm probably pretty boring for your purposes. Like, I'm probably not useful to your story, but I'm happy to participate and to give you, this is my experience.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do with it. But it's interesting. There's now this belief that because there's money out there, that's the only reason anyone with a platform ever says anything. And yes, there are people on the take. That's true.
Yes.
And there are people, for example, there are people with big podcasts. And you go, wow, how do you get a spot on their podcast? You pay them $15,000 for a single appearance. That's how you get on their podcast, right?
Correct.
And they don't say that publicly, of course. You're not going to go on their website and say, hey, appearances are $15,000. No. You've got to get kind of drawn in, and then eventually they'll hit you with the.
Yeah, right? We can do it, but it'll cost you.
Yeah. And that's just a marketing cost. And at that point, those are the people that are really just in the business of it. That is what they're about. Now, entertainment is a business.
Yeah.
Podcasting can be a form of entertainment. It doesn't, people can treat it that way. I don't personally, but it's not invalid to treat it that way. But I do think the secrecy side of it, I think there's a level of deception if you're playing that game and you're not disclosing it.
Yeah.
I think that's really grubby.
Yeah.
So I don't play that game at all. But I'm just watching, and then I said when there was this wave of podcasters that came out and influencers that came off the back of COVID in Australia, and I said back then, just give it time.
Yeah.
It sorts itself out.
Yeah, 100%.
It sorts itself out.
I'm all for everyone having a crack too.
Correct.
Because this is my catch line. The market will sort you out.
Yeah. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I'm not going to tell you can't or that you can. I'm going to let the market sort you out. And if I think that you haven't got what it takes and it turns out the market says you have got what it takes, I'm the one who was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? That's the market wins. The market is right.
We've also talked about this at length as well, about if it comes to you too easy, it's lost just as easily.
Yeah.
So if you don't
have the muscle, you don't have the experience to navigate the thing that you got.
100%. And I look at some of the people who are popping up now. I'm not going to say their names. Because it's not about like pointing out them specifically. It's just the trajectory of that kind of success.
Yep.
When you explode and you go viral a couple of times and you get a couple of 100,000 followers, those people aren't there because of you.
Yeah.
They're there because of that one video that you did.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were interested, and they're like, "I'll wait to see if there's more." You haven't built up any rapport with that or that audience. They're not buying into your values. They haven't been part of that experience with you, and then they drop off. So then getting someone to unfollow you, like, that's just that extra step for some people. It's a bit too hard. But if they're not engaged with you, they'll no longer see your content anyway.
And
so
there's pages everywhere that you see where there are 500,000 followers. Wow. Click on that. Like, go and have a look at their post. 36 likes, 10 likes, maybe, that was a good one, 150 likes.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an engaged page.
And this is the thing about virality. It's not necessarily like directly making you money to begin with, because you don't get paid on a lot of these platforms. No. YouTube's a bit different. But with a lot of these people, they go, well, I have this many followers. I'm like, yeah, but what's your engagement like? How many people buy into it? Like, and this is a really good test. And if someone turns around and decides to monetize their audience and they release a product, how many of those products do they sell? So let's round numbers. Let's say you have 100,000 people.
Sure.
How many people are going to buy? Obviously not 100,000.
No.
But
you'd be lucky to get 1 in 1,000.
Yeah. So what are your conversions? So 1 in 1,000. Okay. So we're looking at...
You should get 100.
Yeah. 100 out of 10, 100 out of 100,000. Yeah. And the truly engaged audiences will be a little bit higher.
Yep.
And it also depends on the market and the product. So like the beauty space, beauty influencers can push big products.
The price point, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. But with a lot of these people that we've seen who have large audiences, they won't be able to monetize. And there's a couple of reasons for it too. One is you can see that they're easily swayed by trends. Mm-hmm. And if they're trend chasing, then it becomes very difficult to...
And some people are doing that right now. And you look at, okay, I'll talk in the American context because I'm not trying to throw shade, but how does someone like a Candace Owens come back from where she is now?
She can't.
There is no coming back from there.
Yeah.
And so now she's pigeonholed. She's that's where she belongs. She cannot credibly come back from there. And so as the audience that shifted with her, let's remember, it's not just the influencers that are doing the rapid shifting, there's people rapidly shifting. As the audience then moves on and loses interest, she gets left behind. She gets stuck. She's got as many people as she will ever have, and it's now kind of downhill from here. Now, that's not to say that she can't continue to be successful and monetize that audience and whatever else, but if you start following your audience, you are going to get left behind. And you will have lost whatever credibility you had that you could have had if you just stood your ground.
I want to bring up an influencer because this is a really good example, I think. So I brought him up a couple of times. His name's Denny Todorovic. Do you remember that name?
I do. Why?
It's this guy.
That's a beach. He's got a face like a rock.
Hang on a minute.
What are we doing?
Why can't you see my screen?
It's
got to be mirroring?
It was just a rock. That's what I could see.
1 minute.
Mac Troubles.
It's not Mac Troubles.
Always with
displays.
The Mac Troubles.
I want a mirror. Mirror.
Oh, there it is. Oh, hide that. Don't let people... Whoa, wow, Carly, what do you get up to in your spare time?
Yeah, that's my secret OnlyFans. So this is Denny, right? And I don't know Denny personally, but Denny was...
I don't recognise the face. I recognise the name, but not the face.
You need to see this video. This will refresh your memory. Sea Folly.
Am I going to regret this?
Yeah, you remember that.
That's why I don't recognise the face. I never looked at it. I was a little distracted.
You were definitely looking at that, for sure.
Not the face.
So this is Denny. He's a Geelong influencer.
Oh, yes. That piece of the puzzle now brings it all back.
Yeah,
yes,
so I've talked about Denny before on the podcast. And like I said, I don't know Denny. I've never met Denny. I just knew him. I was living in Geelong during COVID, or I was living down Torquay Way, and he was a Geelong influencer, and he was everywhere.
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine, we knew Denny, and... He's a diva.
Knew of Denny.
Yeah. Knew of Denny.
Yeah.
And look, to be fair, he was doing quite well for himself. So he was working for the local magazine, the Geelong Advertiser.
Right.
He was a stylist, and that's fine, cool. But all of a sudden, it was around 2020, and the Black Lives Matter and all that. Remember the black square thing?
Oh yeah.
That's like categorically when it all kicked off. The black square was like, you're either on this train or you're not.
Yeah.
And I refused. And I was really outspoken about the black square.
Was that before or after the I'll Ride With You? Because that, I reckon, was one of the big... In Australia, in the Australian context.
I don't remember that.
Really?
I know you've talked about... I don't remember that. That's about...
Oh, gosh.
That was about a girl getting raped or
No,
something?
no, not at all. That was a concoction of the imagination of a journalist who saw a woman wearing a hijab who looked uncomfortable and was adjusting her hijab,
I don't remember this story at all.
Like, Like, it literally happened inside the imagination of that journalist, who then wrote about it and said, I can only imagine what it must be like to da-da-da-da-da. And off went this I'll ride with you, hashtag I'll ride with you thing. I don't know if that was before or after the Black Square, but I reckon in the Australian context, I think that was one of the big ones.
Isn't it funny? Because I don't remember that at all. No
That's
recollection.
hilarious.
It didn't hit
I
me.
look forward to seeing the comments as this plays online.
So Denny started to really blow up, and the Black Lives Matter thing came, and then that was when I started becoming aware of pronoun stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, woke didn't really hit mainstream until 2020. I know it existed.
It was around. It was that had their moments and their causes, but it hadn't become that blanket.
Yeah, I was aware that we were getting to the point in culture where everyone was offended, and we had the whole body positivity, because that was kind of my market.
Yeah.
But this sort of stuff, I was completely I hadn't seen any of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he came out as a they them. That's when he exploded, and then all of a sudden his career just
Took
huge,
off. Yep.
meteoric.
Yep.
Right. He was
every other brand wants to be associated with him because he's the right.
Correct.
thing.
And it was like, this is the train. We're all getting on here. He's the right person. And he did. And I said to my friend at the time, I'm like, what's the bet? He comes out as non-binary soon, because that was the next one.
Yeah.
Sure enough,
Yeah.
a month later, he's non-binary. And then my friend and I are talking. I'm like, he'll be trans soon. Sure enough, a couple months later, he came out as trans.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the bingo card, the oppression bingo card. Who can I be next? Who can I be next? Anyway, these kind of people, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to diagnose Denny with anything, but he did have a psychotic breakdown.
Right.
And I think there's some narcissistic traits that were underlying there. And when you're put into the spotlight and you're not prepared for it, and you have that meteoric rise, and like you said,
Without the struggle beforehand.
you haven't worked the muscle, you're just getting, everyone's indulging you.
Yeah.
Everyone's enabling. And, he was on Q&A. So this is the photo of him on Q&A, and he was talking about...
we can't see that.
hang on. So he was talking about, I don't know, trans people. I don't know what he was talking about. But he made this big song and dance, and everyone was like, oh, he's so brave. So stunning, so brave. And then sure enough, from drug abuse, I don't know what drugs, cocaine, apparently, ketamine, that's what he said. That's from his words. Yeah. He had a full psychotic breakdown.
Yep.
And then he blamed everyone else. It's everyone else's fault. And then anyway, it got to the point where the ultimate faux pas, he was at Fashion Week and he took a bag of flour. And this is all very alleged, just in case. And Nadia Bartel, another homegrown Geelong girlie who has a big fashion brand now. She's now the ex-wife of Jimmy Bartel, the Brownlow medalist.
Yep.
Did he win a Brownlow? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Who cares? She has her own brand, Henny, and he took a bag of flour and was going to sprinkle it everywhere because they're all on cocaine.
Right.
So basically, all the people that built him up, he was going to give them the massive repayment of embarrassing them all mortally.
Sure.
And that also ties into how Nadia Bartel got caught doing coke during COVID.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he got blacklisted and shunned and all the things.
Yes.
But you talk about people like Candace Owens, how do they come back? Well, they do this. They become, I'll go full screen for this one. They become Jewish and come out as a Zionist.
Wow.
Because what else do you do when you're queer, trans, non-binary, you're blacklisted from the fashion industry, who, by the way, they're all pro-Palestine? You do the complete opposite. So all the people that you did want to be a part of, you now do the complete opposite and rebrand yourself.
I'll be honest, I did not see that coming.
Bada-boom-ch. And I find this so... I'm not even Jewish, obviously, but I find this so insulting for Jewish people. It's like...
Does he have Jewish heritage, or is he just taking it on as a religious thing?
I don't know enough...
Because Judaism is a religion. You don't have to be of Jewish descent to follow that religion.
I have to read... he's ethnic of some... Serbian Orthodox. Okay, so here we go. I'll read this out. My name is Denny. I use they, them pronouns. I'm almost 38 and I've come out more times than most. At 19, I came out to the family as gay, and at 32, I came out to the world as non-binary. I'm currently halfway through the process of converting to Judaism, and in God's timing will eventually come out as Jewish. However, today, I have come out publicly as a Zionist. Perhaps my most terrifying coming out experience thus far. Let me explain. I was born Serbian Orthodox and later raised Jehovah's Witness. Believing in God was not an option in my family, it was a way of life. I read the Bible daily, attended services 3 times a week, and prayed to God 4 times a day for a decade. There was just one minor issue. I was gay. The version of God sold to me was one that despised my identity. For 10 years, I prayed for my gay to go away, pleading with God to get rid of this sin. I suppressed it until I couldn't. After coming out to my family, I knew that I could no longer practice my faith. There were no loopholes for homosexuality in our Christianity, so I stopped praying altogether and carried Christian guilt. Shame aside, coming out was both terrifying and thrilling. The initial chaos made way for relief, my parents' grief made way for allyship, and the gates to the all-consuming gay world opened. However, I always felt like something was missing. I felt untethered.
So pause. All-consuming gay world. That's an interesting bit of colour for him to have...
A bit of shade, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it feels that way. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah. Prayer was once my lifeline, God once my best friend, and suddenly I lost both. So I threw every ounce of myself into my new identity and its culture, one rich with history, rainbows, pulsating dance floors, soundtracked to Kylie Minogue. Life, however, has a way of coming at you hard and fast, and it's no coincidence.
That's not the phrase you want to hear when he's just been talking about gay nightclubs.
Right. It's no coincidence.
I'm not the only... Don't you judge me. I'm not the only one, okay?
You seem to know more about this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I've got questions.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's no coincidence that people often fall to their knees in moments of darkness. Oh, Jenny, stop!
Sorry, is this the Mills and Boone version?
The innuendo is just, it's too much.
I mean, if it's on purpose, then well played. I mean, you got to give credit where it's due.
I mean, this is some great literature.
Gosh.
Fall to their knees in moments of darkness, praying for divine intervention. 4 years after
That's
coming
the song.
out,
I'm on my knees.
I began to pray again. Whilst I wasn't sure God would listen, I spoke anyway. Anyway, I lived like this way for a decade. Proud gay man, secretly believing in God, seldom sharing the fact with my friends, blah, 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 blah. I yearned for spiritual conversations, cue Judaism. Many years ago, I heard an Oprah quote that's never left me. Life whispers to you all the time. If you ignore the whisper, sooner or later, you'll get a roar. Anyway, so now I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Okay, whoa. Now we've got Oprah involved in his conversion to Judaism. Like, this thing has more plot twists than a Days of Our Lives series.
This is genuine narcissism. That's what this is. And this is my point, right? Where do you go when you've been pushed so far the other way? Like, he was peak woke. He was all the things, and he was in the fashion industry. He was walking the runways. Everyone wanted a bar of him. C. Foley put him in a bikini because it was so brave. And his narcissism made it all collapse. And obviously he's an untouchable. So now he goes the opposite way.
And tries to build a redemption narrative.
It's like OnlyFans girls coming out as Christian.
Yeah. Look, I'm in two minds, because if he had just done this privately in his own life, in his own world, then I'd say that he's genuine and he's a man who has been hunting for truth, and he still doesn't believe he's found it. And now this is the new place where he's hunting for it, and it's probably more constructive than many of the other places he's looked. But as soon as someone then goes and a big write-up, big spread, big article about this moment, that's when I go, Now, having said that, okay, let's look at Russell Brand.
Yeah.
I would say that there is substance to his journey.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, pun fully intended. I'm just going to own that one. There is substance to his backstory. There's a lot of substances there. But there's also substance in his kind of redemption arc. And it's been long enough. And he and I wouldn't agree on every piece of theology, but I think he's sincerely searching for truth. I don't think his conversion was a narcissistic kind of piece. And I think he did it as publicly as he did because he goes, hey, I've actually found something here. Guys, I want to tell you about what I found. Like, I'm excited.
I would say there's some similarities in their trajectories, because Russell Brand was the whole sex symbol. He was more the heterosexual guy.
Sure.
But he was everywhere. He was uber famous. He was married to Katy Perry. And he also was a known addict. He used to be a heroin addict and alcoholic.
Drugs, sex, rock and roll personified.
100%.
Yeah.
And as we know, that kind of life doesn't necessarily lead to happy places.
No.
And then he had, I know, shocking.
Really?
Shocking.
They didn't tell me that in high school.
That wasn't in the brochure, was it?
No.
So Russell, I do believe there's an element to Russell. He's definitely a showboat, like a show pony.
Show pony, yeah. He likes being, yeah.
Is he narcissistic? I think modern life. So this is the thing. Everyone loves to call everyone a narcissist.
I would put you in that category of like calling people narcissists quite a lot.
Well, I think you can have narcissistic traits now, because I think the digital world that we live in, it cultifies it.
Sure.
I think you're not necessarily a diagnosable narcissist.
Yeah.
But those parts of your personality can absolutely be dialed up.
And that's something that can be exhibited in ways that weren't possible before social media and all that. That's true. But there's always been people who loved the sound of their own voice that weren't necessarily,
like Topher Field.
Well, yes, indeed, I'll own that. The person that wanted to be the MC in the village square whenever they did, village functions. The person who always wanted to be the lead dancer, not back in the back row. They wanted to be the lead in the musical, not in the chorus. Like that's always been a thing, and it's not always full blown narcissism. It's just there are people that thrive on that. There's an energy to that. There's a risk that you're taking that brings some people alive. In the same way, some people love walking to a boxing ring, and they'll do it whether there's 20 people watching or 20,000 people watching, because they want that moment of combat, of risk, of putting it all on the line. That's actually what it's for. And you could say, oh, well, he's just a violent person. No, not necessarily. There's actually some other need that's being met there. So I wouldn't paint every single person that enjoys the spotlight as a narcissist automatically.
No, I don't think so either. But there's definitely a part of it, like with the younger guys growing up with social media in their life from day dot.
Yeah,
I think we
reward narcissism now, and you get more of what you reward. So that is a trait that we're training people for.
This whole new arc of Denny's, right? Like he's just one example. There's multiple people like this. I would put Candace Owens in this thing too. Where does she go? Well, you just go the complete opposite direction.
You reckon she will? You reckon she's going to come out as a Zionist? You heard it here first, everybody.
No, I don't know as a Zionist, but she's going to come back from she'll be reformed in some way, right? Because she's already done it once.
It's the story arc, isn't it? Yeah.
She's done it from I was a Democrat, I was in BLM, to now I'm like a hardline nationalist, Catholic, bloody, I don't know what she is now.
Who knows?
Yeah. And it's the same with all these ethno-nationalists popping up in Australia. Where to after that?
Yeah. Look, give them time. This is going to sort itself out. We probably need to move on to some of the actual topics that we promised people we were going to talk about.
Well, I have a great one. This has happened whilst we're sitting here.
Oh,
so in Parliament today...
Breaking news, everybody.
So obviously we had Giggle versus Tickle.
I still can't believe there is a real actual court case by that name.
Yeah.
I will never get used to that.
And so today in Parliament, Australian officials are extending pregnancy protections to trans women in testimony. Let me read it to you.
I think I'm out. I think.
And on that note, the Oddcast is done.
We are done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Okay, I'm going to read it to you. Actually, no. You know what? Palate cleanse.
These people are allegedly adults.
They're retarded.
I think that's valid.
They are retarded.
I think that, if you get, you can do the whole, you can change gender. I don't think that's sane, but you can do it. To say that biological men can get pregnant, you have...
It's the final thing of dystopian reality. You say something so fundamentally illogical and irrational.
And then you force people to go along with it.
This is doublethink. That's the word I was looking for when we were talking to Pauline Hanson. Doublethink.
It's that demoralizing effect where it's not about making them believe. It's about making them have to pretend that they believe. And it just takes all the fight out of everybody.
Yeah, it just demoralizes people. They just go, okay, sure. All right, we're going to palate cleanse.
Whoever is in the electorate of whoever said that, if they're an elected person, please make sure they never get elected again.
All right, here we go. It's time. I haven't made you watch this one.
I don't have a bottle of whiskey that I can neck.
Australian women have set back women's rights almost 60 years, and they built the laws to make it possible. If you say any of this out loud, these same women will call you a turf and a bigot and expect you to keep your mouth shut. So let's talk about it. The full federal court has ruled that Sel Grover, a woman...
That'll be...
Okay.
So we would have watched that.
So we're talking about this, right? This is why...
I try to erase them from my memory afterwards. That's why it's not clear.
So this is me pissing off. This is the feminist, right? Because I said it's women.
Yeah.
They're all women.
Yeah, congratulations, ladies. You got what you wanted.
100%. Mm-hmm. And so that's what people don't understand. So now when we look at this story... This is the sex commissioner, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to play it in a second, but I'll read this to you quickly. Dr. Anna Cody testified before the Senate Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee in Canberra that denying a job to a trans woman expressing intent to have children could be unlawful discrimination based on potential pregnancy. She acknowledged biological males cannot get pregnant, but said protection apply in someone is assumed able to be. The exchange drew backlash from women's rights advocates like Sal Grover and Rita Panahi, who criticised who criticised it as eroding sex-based rights whilst tying into recent court rulings in the Tickle versus Giggle. That includes trans women under women's definitions.
So the expression Monty Python in real life is supposed to be a joke. It's not meant to be actually literal, but this is that scene out of Life of Brian. I want to be a woman.
So this is the sexual commissioner talking to Michaela Cash. Let's have a listen.
Did you ask the federal court to extend pregnancy protections to transgender women?
Senator, not from my recollection.
No, sorry, I'm asking. I was wondering, I understand the status of your submission.
No, in the submissions we talked about the meaning of pregnancy and potential pregnancy and how that may apply.
So can I ask, how do you see that applying in the Act currently to trans women?
Trans women, if someone is who applies for a job, for example,
yes,
and it is a trans woman and she may be asked whether or not she intends to have children, and if she replies, yes, I do, and then doesn't get the job because that employer doesn't want to employ women who may be of childbearing age, then she may have been subjected to unlawful discrimination on the basis of potential pregnancy.
I'm very confused.
I can't listen. I'm also confused, Michaela. I'm also confused.
That hurt.
These people are making the decisions for the rest of us. These people are utterly brainwashed, imbeciles.
Okay. I don't think she is. The tone in how she commenced her answer.
She believes it.
No. I think she doesn't.
Really?
Mm.
You think?
Play it again. I'm sorry to do this to you, but play it again and listen to how she begins her answer once Michaela Cash has kind of refined what the question is. Have a listen, just see if you can sense the what's not being said, the undertones here.
Okay, let's have a look.
Trans women, if someone is who applies for a job, for example,
yes,
and it is a trans woman and she may be asked whether or not she intends to have children.
Okay, so you can pause it there. I feel like I'm listening to someone read a hostage statement that's been written by their captors.
Now that you've said it, yeah, I can see why you'd say that. Now,
she has to say this because that is the correct interpretation of the law currently. Now, I'm going to say something that'll piss a lot of our viewers off. The rejection of the appeal in Tickle versus Giggle wasn't necessarily a malpractice of law by the judge. It's evidence of how wrong the law is as they are currently written. But just because it's an absurd decision, somewhat unfortunately, but also kind of this is one of the virtues of the system as well, the judges don't get to write the laws and they do have to apply them as they're written, even if they personally don't agree with them. That feels to me like someone who is going, I have to say this way.
Yep.
But that didn't feel like that was coming with any actual belief from her.
Does this not get you absolutely fired up, though? Like, we have genuine issues in this country, and this is what our Senate's currently doing. This is what big organisations like the Human Rights Council and God knows what else are arguing about.
I get really angry at grown adults, especially grown adults on the public payroll, who lack the spine to actually stand up to this stuff. And I'll give you an example. I'm aware of a situation up near where I live where there was a school that was going along with a student who insisted that they were a cat. And they insisted that their name, they wouldn't respond to their name unless the teacher said their name and then said meow at the end.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And if the meow wasn't included, they're like, well, that's not my name. My name is this meow. It got to the point where, and I've spoken to one of the other students at the school who claims that she saw this personally, that kitty litter was installed into a tray in the girls' bathroom.
Yeah.
And she claims to have seen that with her own eyes, and then she got into trouble and nearly got herself suspended because she just absolutely lost her nut about it, and I don't blame her. But where are the superintendents? Where are the regional coordinators? Where are the school principals? Where are the adults? Because what's happening here is all of the other kids are now being forced to go along with this because if they don't, they'll get into trouble.
Yep.
And all of the adults are all looking at each other like, well, I don't want to go for. I'm not going to say this is madness. You know, our guidebook says that we have to do this. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
What your guidebook, like, put your job on the line. Be willing to actually stand up for what you believe in, because at this point, you are now subjecting the other kids in that school to a form of psychological abuse. Not to mention failing that kid themselves, who needs a bit of guidance in their life in order to not make a complete train wreck out of themselves. You are failing absolutely everybody in your care, and you are paid public money out of the public purse to look after these people.
Yeah.
Grow some balls. And so that would be my, like, if my read on, and my read on her might be completely wrong, but if what I'm sensing there is correct, that she's saying this because this is what she's obligated within her job to say, but she knows it's bollocks.
Yeah.
She knows it's ridiculous.
Well, this is why...
Grow some balls and actually say the truth.
I think the jig is up. And this is my whole arc. So I am going to make you watch a reel. You're going to watch this. I know.
You've tried to shoehorn a reel. You're literally recycling reels.
No.
On the Oddcast
I wasn't sure if I had played that trans one because I was very passionate about it. Anyway, shut up.
I'm going to have a nap, guys. I'll be back soon.
All right. Hang on. No, you've made me I have to start again. Ready? Is destined to fail. Any ideology that relies on coercion to exist may initially manufacture some compliance, but it cannot manufacture genuine belief. And what we're seeing now is the slow exhaustion of something that was never internally sustainable. So let's talk about it. When an ideology requires constant pressure to perform to survive, it will inevitably collapse. Woke doctrine may still exist at the institutional level and among its most sycophantic devotees, but the belief behind it has already evaporated from the masses. Cast your mind back to being a 6-year-old at the dinner table and you're having a Mexican standoff with some boiled peas. There's an unspoken threat: eat them or else no ice cream with ice magic. That is the foundational moment that child, or me, will resent peas for the rest of their adult life. There's only so long we will voluntarily participate in this performance. Eventually, the reward no longer outweighs the discomfort, and so apathy ensues. This is exactly what has happened to woke. For the better part of 3 decades, it crept into our schools, workplaces, government institutions, Hollywood, and eventually our social circles. We received condensation from the zealots who were sanctimoniously telling us what to think, what to say, and what to put in our bios. It brought with it a strong moral framework, but also a set of expectations about language, identity, and belief that were often enforced socially rather than debated openly. For many people, the cost of non-compliance was high: reputational risk, professional consequences, social exclusion, and in my cases, a lot of death threats. So everyone adapted, not necessarily because they were convinced, but because it was easier than resisting. George Orwell wrote 1984 as a warning. The central concept, doublethink, is the precise description of what woke demanded from ordinary people. Doublethink is the ability to hold 2 contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both of them as a survival strategy in environments where dissent carries consequences. You can see echoes of that dynamic in moments where people felt required to publicly affirm woke ideas they were privately questioning, like biological sex is a social construct, all white people are inherently racist, and children can choose their gender at 3 and go on puberty blockers, but don't understand right from wrong when they're stealing cars at 14, almost killing a cyclist, and getting 109 charges dropped by a weak justice system. Yeah, that actually happened. Woke required people to override what they intuitively, instinctively, and biologically knew to be true. When you ask a population to do that indefinitely, eventually that desire breaks down because you cannot maintain doublethink forever without escalating the coercion required to enforce it. Tell someone for long enough how racist, fascist, evil, and complicit in genocide they are, and eventually, much like the boy who cried wolf, no one gives a shit. The threats stop working. Woke was never going to die in some bloody revolution. It's dying in something far more permanent and devastating to this ideology that requires your active participation to survive: indifference. Indifference is the one thing you cannot legislate against. You can punish dissent, you can police speech, you can even mandate language, but you cannot compel someone to genuinely believe something they have already decided is a lie. That's where we're at with woke.
So, can I just say, that is, I think, one of the most spectacular nailed it moments that I've seen from you.
Thank you.
Not just the reel, but the reel in conjunction with the discussion we were just having, and your choice to play it in that moment in time as a continuation of the narrative about what we just watched with Michaelia Cash, etc. That is one of the most impressive nailed it moments I've seen from you.
Guys, he just gave me a compliment.
No, it's true. I have nothing further to add.
No notes.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
No notes.
Because that's honestly where we're at. It is, I know a lot of people were hoping that there'd be this massive revolt, and we see that from the far right. They're expecting us pitchforks, torches, storm Parliament and whatever. That's what the wokies did. Yeah. And it just made people think they're unhinged and ridiculous. Yeah. And you hear them screeching and screaming. Remember all the women that are like... Yeah. And the opposite is... just don't pay him attention anymore. Yeah. So when this human rights commissioner or whoever she is, Anna Cody, gets up there, you just look at her. And if I was in the Senate hearing, I'd just honestly be like, I'd put headphones on. I don't care. Say what you want. I don't believe it anymore. You can't punish people anymore. And this whole Sel Grover thing, that has really pissed off your old school feminists, your lesbians, and mums. Like you've united a group of people that maybe would have had different political leanings, but now you're getting to the point where it's dystopian. Yeah. And no one gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, it's insane. And you're dead right that in order to maintain that doublespeak, these contradictory ideas simultaneously, and you have to passionately support both of them, in order to maintain that does require escalating levels of coercion. Yeah. It doesn't, you don't reach a point where it flatlines. It requires escalating levels of coercion.
Well, how do you, it's not just the trans stuff, like everything, the genocide, you're a genocide supporter, you're a racist, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, whatever. Yeah. You've said it all. Yeah, correct. Now what?
Correct. Yeah.
I'm still
come up with a new word. Invent a new word for me. And that's where it does turn to violence. And this is one of the reasons why these sorts of authoritarian states, whether fascist or communist, they do end up in violence, because ultimately there comes a point where your threats and your coercion are going to be revealed as empty unless you escalate to violence. Yeah. And because they're not willing to let go of their ideology and allow people to realize, oh, hey, nothing bad happened to me. No, they go there. Yeah. They have to.
It's inevitable.
It's how it ends. Yeah. Unless we turn it around beforehand.
I saw this today. I think it was yesterday this happened at the Hay Festival. I don't know what that is. But Julia Gillard was there speaking and, she's pissed off the lesbians. Oh. So this is called Lesbian Labour, an account on X. And they've written Julia Gillard, the destroyer of women's rights, which is ironic given she is known for her misogyny speech.
We've talked before about how it's the dude at the front of the women's rights march wearing the pussy hat that is almost certainly the kitty fiddler.
100%.
Right? They are wearing that as a cloak. Now, I'm not suggesting that Julia Gillard has skeletons in the closet in that sense, but when she pins, when her feminism is the core of her entire time as Prime Minister of Australia, I'm sorry, bad things are coming.
If that's all you have, we talked just before about immutable traits. I'm a woman, therefore. I'm queer, therefore. I'm whatever. Yep. And? Yeah. What else you got? Like you said, you didn't earn that. You were born with that. Yep. What else you got?
Yep. And, and this is like, how did we get here? How did we get to the point where we're having massive arguments over immutable traits? We literally worked for a couple of 100 years across Western civilization, from the UK to America to the entire Commonwealth. Countries that were at war with each other not so long ago, America and the UK being a case in point. We worked together to build a society where, at least at an official level, at a structural level within the justice system, within our political system, etc., we were no longer allowed to judge people on their immutable traits. Yeah. Now, I actually disagree with that. I think we should be free to interact or not interact as we see fit. So I don't actually agree with the use of state coercion against racism. I think racism is horrible, but I don't agree with coercion with regard to it. But that's what we built over hundreds of years to get to this point where now all of a sudden we're making it the central feature again. But
not only that, you're seeing in places like the US where they're building enclaves of certain things, whether it's San Francisco's become an enclave for the LGBTQ plus blah, 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 whatever it is. And then in parts of New York, it's black-owned communities, black-owned stores. It's like, so you want apartheid? Didn't we just go through the whole thing that you didn't want that? And you want to go back to segregation? Yep. I'm so confused. And this has all happened in the space of a century. Oh, less.
Yeah, no, this happened faster than that,
Yeah, because when was apartheid?
Apartheid finished in the 80s, I want to say late 80s.
And segregation officially ended in the South in the end of the 70s?
No, it was earlier than that. It was officially ended. What was the era of that picture of the two police officers with the girl being taken to the school that had been desegregated?
That was a colour photograph, so it had to be at least the 60s.
Yeah, I think it was 60s, not 70s.
Okay,
yeah.
When it was completely kaputzed. Yeah, because we had the civil rights movement and all that.
Yeah, correct. And it was not long before that. There's a funny, not funny line in the movie about the US air cavalry, the helicopter cavalry in Vietnam, which featured somebody. And he's famous for saying, you know, my boots will be the first on the ground and I'll be the last one to leave. And he takes his men in and they end up under heavy fire and they take heavy losses and then they withdraw. And it's a decent movie. I can't remember, but in the movie they feature a little bit about the women back home and their husbands are off at war and they're in, you know, and there is a moment where there's some confusion because one of the women is like, where, like, they've got the laundry on the dorm. All the women are living on this base. You got the laundry there, but where do I wash my coloured clothes? I need to, like, I can wash my whites there, but where do I wash my coloured clothes? And there's this moment of confusion. And then she realizes the sign that says no coloureds isn't referring to the clothes. And there was a black wife, a black woman, who was a part of the group, and she was a welcome part of the group. But they're in town. It might not have been on the base. I think it might have been in town. Was this no coloureds on the, you know, on the laundry? That's real. Yeah. Now I don't know about the exact timelines of when did that end, but that was real for a very long time.
Drinking fountains. Yeah.
Segregated drinking, segregated schools, segregated swimming pools, segregated churches. Yeah. You know, and so we can't dismiss that. And I find that abhorrent. I find that absolutely wrong.
It's completely dehumanizing.
Well, it's dehumanizing. And it's also like, if that's, again, what we said before, if that's what you're about, then you've got no substance. If you think that that's the thing that matters, then you've got nothing that matters on the inside of you.
But what's crazy about this, G and I have been rewatching some old movies from the 90s and stuff like that, back when movies were actually good. And we watched I always get it wrong, is it A View to Kill or is that the James Bond?
License to Kill was James Bond.
So A View to Kill.
A View to a Kill?
With Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson,
I've never
Sandra
seen it.
Bullock.
I only know of it.
Oh, brilliant movie.
Was it? Okay.
Brilliant movie. Really good. So basically what it is there's, I'll just spoil it.
Just ruin it for us all.
So I highly recommend. It's Matthew McConaughey when he was just sort of breaking out. And I
loved him in The Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
So good. Anyway.
This is one of those, it's almost like a View to Kill a Mockingbird and stuff like that. Same kind of premise. So what it was is a young girl's walking home from the store and two raging Southerners.
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill,
That's the movie. I have seen that, yes.
Yeah. So two Southerners with a Confederate flag in their car.
Extremely racist. They hammed it up, and played to the tropes. But yes, I mean, this is a real thing.
Proper rednecks.
There are people who did do this.
And I think it was set in the 60s. I think it was the 60s.
That feels about right. Yeah. It's a long time since I saw the movie, but yes.
Anyway, long story short, these two rednecks rape and do horrific things to this little girl.
Drag her behind their car and she dies.
Yes, horrific, right? Absolutely horrific. They pee on her and all sorts of shit. Anyway, her body gets discovered, and because the judge and people in the police force are in cahoots, there's no real charges laid, and
I think basically they make sure that the case is lost on a technicality, something like that happens. So they throw the case.
Correct. They're trying to deliberately get these two guys off. Anyway, Samuel L. Jackson.
Enter Samuel L. Jackson, mother.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, criminally underrated. Criminally underrated. Yeah. Anyway, so he comes in and he walks into the courtroom and shoots up the place. Yep. And he actually kills the two, and he shoots the knee of a police officer who is actually a friend of his. Mm-hmm. And then the story is Matthew McConaughey
defending him in court. Yeah. It is actually, I do remember, it is a great, they play to some of the tropes, but it is a very good movie.
But it's a really good illustration of what it was like. It was a two-tiered justice system. Things were stacked against the minority there. But fast forward to today, and this is why I'm bringing it up. Fast forward to right now, that story I just played in that reel. A 14-year-old girl was argued, because it's a genuine part in the law that I can't remember what the legal term is, but if you think they can't comprehend right and wrong after 13, or around 13.
It's Dolly and Capax.
That's it, yeah. Then they're not liable for what they've done. But the crazy thing about this is she's now 14. She was 13 when she committed the crime. She had 109 charges. She stole a car. She deliberately swerved into a cyclist, almost killing him, giving him a brain injury. And then afterwards, after her massive crime rampage, she was Googling what happens if I drive into someone. What are the consequences? Wow. Right? You tell me that she doesn't know that. But this is the thing. The same people who will argue that she's not criminally liable because she doesn't know the difference between right and wrong at 14 or 13 when she committed it. But at the same time, these same people will say that a 3-year-old knows their gender and should be able to decide whether or not they go on hormone blockers.
All of us have to just affirm and change what pronouns we use with them and
correct.
Blah, blah, blah.
And this is the ridiculousness of it. So this is the whole doublethink thing. And how is this any different to what used to happen in the South? We know it's wrong. It is categorically wrong. All the evidence proves that it's wrong, and yet we have to sit here and go, oh,
yep,
that's the law. It's monstrous. It really is.
All right, I need a palate cleanse. I am aware that Ferrari just released a new monstrosity.
I love how it's like jarring.
But I need it's like a Ferrari, going around a corner. Come on, hit me with this monstrosity. How bad is it? Is it like... Now, so typically, is this a pure EV? There's no internal combustion engine?
It's a pure EV. Okay. And you guys know how I feel about Ferraris. I'm disgusted. And Enzo Ferrari would be rolling in his grave.
Oh, that's environmentally friendly power. If we can just put a turbine onto him,
right?
You could recharge your EV Ferrari off him.
I rewatched on the plane the other day Ford versus Ferrari.
That is a good movie.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
But Enzo, like, his whole thing was Italian passion and craftsmanship.
Yep.
So this abomination has popped up. Let's have a look. So
can I sue?
So we all know Ferrari's a bit like Hermes. To get access to their supercars, you have to have a bit of a collection.
Yeah.
And
sorry, is that the transporter with a gun as the headline image of a story, or is that it's an ad?
It's an ad.
I was going to say, like, can I sue?
Let me.
Like that's a bold way to do a story about a new Ferrari. Far out. They're not mucking around.
I need to not play the music.
Yeah, let's not.
Because we keep getting copyright things.
We do.
All right, ready?
Oh no, I'm not. Can you full screen that? Oh gosh, did I just say that? I want to see more of it. No, I don't.
It's horrific. I'm so upset about this. All right.
This is what you get when you mix a Ferrari with an Apple iPhone. An extraordinary car that promises to be right at the top of its technology. Now, look at this car. It looks unlike...
What it looks like is a Tesla and someone's taken to it with a permanent marker and just like, you used to do that in high school? You make your sneakers black. That's what it looks like.
So, okay, hold up. Like...
Can you see that? Hang on.
Yeah, I can. My eyes are bad, but they're not that bad. Okay, so this is not harking back to Pininfarina. This is not... The design language is completely off. The proportions are completely off. Like, okay, if
it looks like a Mazda 121 from the 90s. If it
looked like a Ferrari, then that'd be a good place to start. But I'm sorry, it is too... The side profile over the doors is too high, and that should never be the high point of a Ferrari. The wheel arch across the front is barely higher than the top of the door sill, and there's no rear hip to speak of. Lack of an intake scoop on the back there and the sculpting that goes around that. Like this, from a design language point of view, that has more in common. That front end and that profile has more in common with a it's not the Mustang, it's the Chevrolet competitor to the Mustang. Oh gosh. Charger? Not the Charger.
The Hellcat, the Charger.
Yeah, is it the Charger?
Yeah.
Get a picture of that for me.
Which one?
Hellcat Charger. I don't know. I'll pull my phone out.
Like 2000?
The current one. The current one.
Hellcat 2025 Charger.
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
This one? You can't really see that, can you?
I cannot see that very much.
That still looks kind of cool. It still looks like a...
But that's muscle car proportions, right? And when it's done as a muscle car, that works, okay?
This is what it looks like.
It's not that bad. I'm trying to be a little bit fairer here.
It's fucking hideous. That's what it looks like.
I'm trying to be
a
little bit fairer here.
Car.
What they've done is they've built a Ferrari with much more muscle car-esque proportions, and therefore it doesn't look like a Ferrari.
What about that says muscle?
Okay, so
it looks short.
Tell me that doesn't look like a Chevrolet front end. That looks like a Chevrolet front end. I'm not sure if it's the Charger that I'm thinking of, but that feels like I've seen that in the V8 supercars.
Really?
Or like the supercars.
It looks like they put the splitter in the wrong part of the car. They're like, oh, put it up a bit higher.
Put it up here. Well, that's just a color thing. But the complete lack of side sculpting, it's a slab, the complete lack of rear hip, the wheel arches that don't actually dive down into that front end. I'm pretty familiar with most of the major design houses that have done the majority of Ferrari work over the decades, and
how can this be the same people? I'm not saying I love the F80. I don't think it's bad, but how can this be the same company? Let me just.
Well, that is a step in the same design language direction.
But what?
Because of the airflow, they've had to do a lot more side sculpting. Look at the height of the door sill compared to the front haunch, and then have a look at the pronounced rear hip. That is what defines a sports car, supercar design language. The side sculpting, the lower door sill compared to your front wheel arch, and then a pronounced rear hip. There's lots of variation within that theme, but that's what makes the supercar look wide and low, of course, yes.
This still looks like a Ferrari.
It still looks like a Ferrari, yes.
This looks like a Mazda 121. You will not change my mind. It's horrific.
Okay, I think it looks like they were trying to ape muscle car language and they got it badly wrong. That's what it looks like to me.
All right, let's...
Anything we've seen from Ferrari, and that's because it was designed by people responsible for some of Apple's greatest gadgets. They've also worked for brands like R.M. Williams and Qantas. If we have a look at the design, I actually really like it. It is
because you're retarded.
Okay, stop.
It just, cuts.
That top view is slightly McLaren-esque. I will give them that. There is a...
It looks like an iPhone.
Yeah, sure. But that's what they're like. That's literally what they're trying to do. That is not a bad angle aesthetically. The problem is absolutely no one sees their car in real life from that angle. So it looks pretty on a marketing brochure, but literally none of us will ever see our car from that angle unless we are about to die in a high-speed collision with the roof of our car.
It is smooth and it just cuts through the air, and you can see around the back here.
You've filmed like a bloody iPhone
hidden
too.
Tail lights that are recessed into the bumper, and they essentially shine through when the tail lights are on, and they're inspired.
I'm sorry, if I'm buying a Ferrari, I ain't rocking up in that. That's embarrassing.
He's also a terrible motoring journalist.
By cars like the Ferrari 550 Maranello and the 360 Medina in the past. This one that I'm looking at right now is quite subtle. It doesn't have big chrome.
It is god awful. There is nothing redeeming about this.
But again, that's American muscle car. The way they've done the airflow venting around the rear lights, that little bit of a gap there. This is too heavily influenced.
That does look like the back of a Camaro.
Yeah, this is American muscle. Maybe it's a Camaro front end that I was thinking of.
Let's have a look.
That might be what I was thinking of. That actually rings more of a bell than a Charger.
Back end.
Well, you do the back end, but I want to do the front end as well. Now, do the front end of a current Camaro, 2025 Camaro front.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, everybody, while we live Google here. Okay. No. Get one of these quarter angle ones.
This one?
Get that one there. It's tiny. All right. Now, look at that. Now go back. Now, notice even that has much bigger hips on it. But notice the height of the door sill is higher than the front wheel arch. This is an important distinction between your supercar design language and your muscle car design language. And the way that front end is set up, if we go back in this video to where it shows its front end, go in the video, go back to that, because that angle they had on the blue one. If you go back further, keep going back, all the way there. Okay. So that design language on the front, the way they've got the color above, the color below, your headlight with an integrated grille in between, and kind of that split air dam leading down the bottom. Now go back to the Camaro. Yeah, that shot there. Now go back to the Camaro. I think this whole thing is a bad rendition of American muscle car language.
Guys, tell me in the comments.
They've smoothed over too much. They've iPhoned muscle car design language, and that does not belong in a Ferrari.
It looks like that. It looks like a bubble car. Look at it. Boop. Look at it. Look at it. Boop. It's embarrassing. It looks so stupid.
I'm going to not argue with you because I don't want to hear you go boop ever again if I can help it. Boop. But that has no place.
Let's look at the interior
in a Ferrari garage.
Does he get in it? Here we go.
Stunning. If we pop in here, this is a really great space. I love this solution to the touchscreen. You can tip it from the driver's side to the passenger
side.
side.
Do I need a handlebar on my screen?
And that had better be really well engineered so it never gets loose and never moves during a corner, no matter how big of a curb I hit.
Metal buttons and glass
Far out.
everywhere you look. I love the key. It's made of electric ink, and it changes color when you pop it into the car, and it just feels so different from what we've seen before. This thing promises to be absolutely extraordinary to drive, delivering the soul of a Ferrari in an electric.
No.
The soul, it doesn't have a soul.
No, the soul of a Ferrari is an internal combustion engine and the sound that it makes. It doesn't have
a soul.
Now, I want to be clear, because some people are going to be watching going, oh, these guys just hate EVs. No, I don't hate EVs. EVs are an appliance, right? You have an EV for the same reason you have a fridge, or for the same reason you have a washing machine. It does a job that gets you places, and I accept that they can be more efficient. If you ignore depreciation and capital costs, the actual running costs can be very, very low. They can have very low center of gravity. They make less noise. There's lots of advantages in so many different ways. I don't want one. I don't want one. And because they're missing their soul. The internal combustion engine with all of its impracticalities and limitations and problems and flaws, that's what I want in my car.
Can I just say that no one's buying a Ferrari for efficiency?
No.
No one buys a Ferrari and goes, you know what, this will be good on the budget.
Okay, so think about the guys that do the laps. And these will be, typically late teenage years into their mid-20s, and they've got the doof car and they're driving down Chapel Street, or they're doing laps of the main street of any country town. You go to most country towns on a Friday or a Saturday night, and there's going to be some sort of a group of guys, and they've got with the utes or whatever it is. They can't drive fast. What do you show off if you have a Ferrari EV? Right? If you have a Ferrari internal combustion engine car, you go,
100%.
When everyone goes, whoa, what's that one?
You rock up because you hear
far
it.
Out.
You this is the thing about chapel laps, right? Chapel laps?
Chapel laps.
Chapel laps.
Apple apps or chapel laps?
Laps of Chapel Street.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't really happen anymore because
a
lot of those places are gone.
Dead. Yeah.
But you used to be sitting there in a cafe and a guy in a Ferrari would drive past. You'd hear it for a good 5 minutes because it'd be sitting halfway up Chapel Street waiting in traffic. And then it just all of a sudden would sit there and it would park illegally because it could.
Of course, it could double park. Yeah.
And everyone would be like, oh, wow, it's a Ferrari. Ooh. If you're parking that, no one would even look at it.
No one cares. No one's looking at you. This is how naive I was. I grew up so innocent. When I was first exposed to Chapel Laps, I was on Chapel Street. We're getting a kebab from whatever that really great kebab place was. I don't even know if it's still there. And it was, it was about the right time. The Chapel Laps thing was happening in full flow. And there's your Skylines and your Supras and your V8 Commodores and all this sort of stuff doing their thing, all trying to show off. And then, every now and again, there's a Ferrari or a McLaren or something a bit more high end. And I turned to my brother. A couple of us were out. I turned to my brother and said, why are they all selling their cars? Because on the back window, particularly the Japanese ones, the older ones, right, not the high-end ones, but your older, sort of Japanese, well-loved shitboxes, was always for sale and a phone number. And my brother looked at me like I was an alien. He's like, none of them are for sale. That's their way of giving the chicks their phone number. And me being, young, and I think I was 16 or something, I could get a car and just put my phone number on the back and girls are going to start calling me like, oh, this sounds amazing. And so out of my mouth, I blurted, does it work? and he burst out laughing. He's like, no, only in their imaginations.
Yeah.
Nobody, no girl has ever called one of those numbers because they were so impressed by the sound of that dude's V8. It's never happened in the history of ever.
So there's a bit.
I have a for sale sign on the back of my car at the moment, ladies. Just.
There's a bit, a comedian did this, I can't remember who it was, but it's when you're a young girl, guys would drive past you and do a bit of a rev.
Yeah.
Vroom,
yeah.
You're like, Johnny just revved at me. And he's like, what's the equivalent? It's like, just Johnny ran. It's Carl Barron who did it. When you're a child, Johnny just ran really fast over there instead of revving the car because they don't have cars. That's the equivalent.
Yes.
Oh God, how embarrassing. But they just, in the same breath, Ferrari also did this. They've done a new version of a Testarossa.
Okay.
Which
can you enlarge that? Because
what
is that? A picture for ants? Where's my glasses?
Here we go. Let's watch video.
All right.
So the revival of the Testarossa name is a big deal in the Ferrari world. Of course, it was first used back in 1956 on the Ferrari 500, and that denoted the red cylinder head, and that meant it was the most extreme, most powerful engine. But most people, of course, know it from the iconic 1984 Testarossa supercar, and it's wonderful to have it back in the Ferrari lineup. Now, I've literally spent 5 minutes with the new 849 Testarossa, and it is a lot to take in. There's definitely much more of a squared off look, so it's definitely picked up where the F80 hypercar has left off. It is actually not all new. Beneath the skin is the SF90 Stradale's aluminium space frame chassis that has the carbon fibre bulkhead, but there's some delightful design highlights. So they have these twin tail boiler elements here, and that's supposed to come from the old 70s 512S prototype racer. But overall, it's a lot more dramatic. It's pretty special in the flesh, and this will be very much the fastest Ferrari series.
It's not a bad looking car.
I will die on this hill. The last true Ferrari was the F470 or 430, F430.
I think G will agree with you on that.
In the manual transmission. Rear engine, V8, no electronics, manual transmission, and it looked like what a Ferrari is supposed to look like. That's not it.
No, this is what I think is the last really good Ferrari, in my opinion.
The F12.
The F12.
Yeah, no, that's the front engine one, yeah?
Yes.
So that's the spiritual successor to the 575 and the 550 and all those. Now, I loved the 550, and then they brought out the 575, which had this big aggressive bonnet scoop and stuff, and that's...
Apparently this thing's diabolical to drive, though, because they have a lot of problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the Ferrari Grand Tourer front engine V12 model. Like a Ferrari 575,
look at that.
Could adore. But actually, I would go for if I was going for that kind of car, I would actually stump up for the Aston Martin version of the same thing.
Like, look at that. That looks evil.
No, it's beautiful. If I was buying into that genre of car, I would be going for the Aston Martin Vanquish or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just for the drama of the look, how they look, and that classic British motoring look does it for me a lot more than the classic Italian.
This will be what
Why do you keep Googling your cars? And I'm talking about these beautiful machines that everyone watching wants to see.
No, this is what I want. They've stopped making them, but I want the V10 version.
So I always thought that was just the Audi V10. Apparently, it's very different. They really worked over the V10, even though they're part of the same group. Apparently, it is a very substantially different engine and quite special, from what I'm told.
So fun to drive. Anyway, people probably
but
don't care about this.
Look, probably not. And you still haven't shown them an Aston Martin Vanquish, which is more beautiful than all of them. But, that's just me. What would I know?
Vanquish.
If I was going for the rear engine setup, I'd go for the 430, was it? If I was going for the front engine thing, it would be not a bronze chromed one. Okay, well, that's not as bad as I thought. Yeah.
Oh, music. No music.
Key fob. Okay. Come on. Move along. It's just... Yeah, okay, it's not a great video of it. But for me, the shape, the proportions, front engine V12, available with a manual transmission. If I want a Grand Tourer, this is...
Would you actually buy it manual?
So it depends. If it was going to be something that I drove all the time, no. If it was going to be something special that I pulled out when I really felt like it, yes.
I'm going to embarrass my boyfriend here, but I don't even think I could drive a manual. Like, I learnt to drive manual.
Yeah.
I just haven't driven one in like 10 years.
No, I learnt to drive manual. I drove a manual for a long time, and then I also spent a lot of years on a motorbike. And so the setup's different, but it's a manual transmission with a manually operated clutch. So for me, I think it's kind of baked in. Every car's different. You've got to find the clutch bite point and how many revs and blah, blah, blah. So there's a learning curve to every different vehicle. But if I jumped in a manual transmission car now, it would... okay, there's a chance I would stall it first time out of the gate because I don't know what this car needs, but very quickly I'd be driving fine. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like riding a bicycle for me.
Oh, that's what I mean. If I got back into one, I'd probably like do a burnout or do a bit of bunny hopping, but I'd figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
My dad would just be mortified to hear that. I just found this popped up on X. This is just in response to what we were talking about.
Oh, yes.
Me. Perhaps he will listen to Sal Grover, who kindly provided some of her own words for me to share. In a free society, people can believe whatever they want. If you want to believe men can be women, or you're a man who wants to call himself a woman, that is your business. What you cannot do in a free society is force anyone else to accept it. What is at stake here is the ability...
Yeah.
Yeah. No argument from me.
No notes.
Yep.
All right. So next thing we had to talk about was Gina Reinhardt is making a move into media.
All right. You're going to have to fill me in on this because I know nothing.
Okay. So, hang on. Wrong one. There we go. So she is the money behind Bruce McWilliams' stake in Seven. Okay. So Australia's
in Seven owner, so they're buying the group.
Yeah. So Australia's richest person, Gina Reinhardt, has emerged as the money behind former Kerry Stokes ally Bruce McWilliams' near 10% stake in Southern Cross Media, the owner of the Network 7 and Triple M.
Yeah.
Reinhardt, a mining magnate who has previously held interest in Network 10 and Fairfax Media, has now emerged as a key player in the biggest media company in Perth. Blah, 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 blah. So the news sparked speculation the pair might be planning an eventual takeover of the media company currently valued at $278 million. Reinhardt has long held ambitions of owning and controlling Australian media assets. Well, that's going to upset a lot of people.
So she's dropped sort of sub 30 million into a 10% stake. Look, media, there's a lot of money to be made in media. But the key risk with media now is not the other networks. It's actually the non-networks. It's the social media companies.
It's Gina Reinhardt. You should be sponsoring.
You should be
independent
financing
creators.
us. Speaking of secret money, no.
I got accused of that last week because I put up something positive about Pauline.
Only once.
Yeah, no. So each week it changes, and this is what I've said to people. I'm like, yes, I make sure that I've diversified my income.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to have a key man risk in my income. So. This makes a lot of sense.
Double agent.
Media is one of the better industries to invest in because it's highly consumable. It's extremely now. There will always be demand for a huge amount of it all of the time, and then you've just got to try and get your slice of a continuous, very big pie. Same as sort of the food industry or these where it's a consumable. It's gone, and then people need more. People have the same approach to news and media, but it's never been more competitive. And one of the interesting things is the race to zero that's taking place in content, because media is just one part of the content landscape.
Yeah.
And so the race to zero happened for a while, and now it's really changed. I'll illustrate what I mean. When you have competition, so we talked about before, super profits can be made when someone is the first one to have a really great idea that consumers go, oh, we want that. And then other people copy it, and then competition kicks in. Take, for example, Microsoft. They had Microsoft Office. They could charge an absolute fortune for it because no one else was doing it.
Adobe did the same thing.
And then Adobe, they did their thing with photo manipulation and video editing and so forth. And then other software became cheaper to develop, and other people began to move in. Open Office became a viable alternative. Yeah, it was clunky in its own ways. I used Open Office for years. Then you had the G Suite, where now all of a sudden Google's offering you all of the Office-related tools as part of their subscription service. And now we're on a race to zero because everyone's switched over to a subscription service. No one's asking you for thousands of dollars up front anymore. You can switch from one to the other relatively easily, so they're having to cram more and more value in there to justify the subscription all the time. This is the race to zero. We saw the same thing happen with subscription services for entertainment. We've watched as they've tried to cram more and more in. Foxtel used to have a monopoly. Once you could have Foxtel or you could not have Foxtel.
Yeah.
Or maybe you could have Optus, you could not have Optus. That was kind of it. Now, if you have access to the internet, you've got access to all of them, and they've been cramming more and more value in. But this weird thing happens. There's this turning of a corner that happens. And we see it on YouTube. YouTube is where it's most obvious. So on YouTube, the viewer pays nothing for any of the content. They just have to tolerate the ads. That's the business model. They just have to tolerate the ads. Everything's free. So the race to zero is already at zero. Everything's completely free. But what emerged was a model where people could say, hey, subscribe to my stuff to get extra exclusive stuff that you can't find anywhere else. Or models like the one that I follow, which is, hey guys, I'd love it if you buy me a coffee to help me make more of this sort of content. And people began to discover, or the people who analyze industries began to discover this really interesting thing. People are willing to pay for a sense of connection, to feel like they were a part of it. And they're willing to reward behavior that they want to see more of, which is, of course, the most fundamental economic incentive. If someone buys me, if I put up a video on a certain topic and lots of coffees come in, I go, oh, what was it about that video?
Yeah.
Right. And the next time that topic evolves in some meaningful way, I might go, actually, I will talk about that evolution of that topic when I might not have otherwise. So that is the financial incentive that comes with it. What people realized was, even though all of this entertainment is available completely for free, People are voluntarily paying money.
Yes.
Why? What for? What's happening psychologically here where people who could have watched that video for free and paid absolutely nothing for it are now voluntarily going and reaching in their pocket and saying, here, have some money. And
they want more of it.
Well, they want more of that particular type of content, but they also want to feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah.
They want to feel like they're somewhat special. And so what these streaming companies have started to do is to make you pay to feel special. So in the first instance, the most easiest and most obvious one is pay to remove ads.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm a YouTube member. I've paid for my YouTube membership. I don't get ads on YouTube.
Yeah, same.
And I actually didn't do that until I had kids watching using my YouTube channel on the TV.
Because you didn't want to see the ads.
Well, yeah, because the ads aren't always, they're not too bad usually, but they're not always stuff I want my kids seeing. And so I paid the money to get rid of the ads so that they can watch their kids' videos and have no troubles. But the networks have now, like your Amazons and Netflixes, they've followed that same model now. All of a sudden, I'm paying a subscription to Amazon.
You have ads.
And midway through my movie, there's an ad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, go ad free. Oh, there's a premium tier now where now I have to, right? And clearly it's working for them. And so something is reversed in the race to zero. This is something has happened, and I'm not clear on what it is yet. And whoever figured this out is a genius, and I hope they made a lot of money. But somehow they've figured out how to tap in to something in our psychology, whether it's just annoyance at ads or something, and it's working for them. Whoever can figure out what that is in the mainstream media context, because that hasn't kicked in for mainstream media yet.
Well, it's comfort. Ultimately, you want the least, I said on Monday, you want the least amount of friction. Ads are friction. If you're in the middle of a movie, that actually happened to us ages ago because I've got Prime and we were watching Nuremberg, the one with Russell Crowe. And halfway through it, in the middle of a really intense scene, an ad popped up, and I was like,
"It's like watching a movie back in the 1980s."
I was genuinely outraged. The
first time it happened to me, I was ropeable, absolutely ropeable.
I was ready to bloody flip the table because it was in the middle of this really tense scene.
Yeah.
And it ruined it.
Well, I'm sitting there going, I've paid for access to this.
Yeah.
Like this is, I've already paid you.
Well,
Why
I actually
are you
paid to watch the movie because it was a new release.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I think I paid $20.
So you pay your subscription,
ads.
and then you paid for the access to the individual thing, and then it had ads.
Yeah.
Now, what's really interesting to me is we've got basically two different models in mainstream media, and so this is coming back to the Gina Reinhart thing. The fundamental model is they attract eyeballs and they sell them to advertisers. That's the fundamental business model of all news. We think they're there to inform us. No, they're there to keep us coming back. That's actually what their business model doesn't depend on you walking away more educated and more informed. Their business model depends on you coming back next time.
Staying hooked in.
Correct. The business model that I follow on YouTube is having them walk away feeling more informed and hopefully being more informed.
Yeah.
It's the inverse. I want you to come back because I added value into your life, not because you're unsatisfied. There's not enough. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I actually want to play into that, right? Because there's two ways of approaching this. There's a lot of, I consume so much marketing conversation stuff, particularly about big brands, like what's happening on the global scale, but also down to the influencer level. And it's just more so a fascination for me. And I talked about before about having that meteoric rise and people want to make, hay while the sun's shining.
Yeah.
But you cannot sustain it because the reason is people came to you for that one thing, but they didn't buy into you. There's a difference between building it small. And that's why people who, before they find mainstream success, like let's take a band, back in the early days of Metallica, people would go to garage shows or there'd be 20 people in the crowd. I don't know if that actually happened to Metallica, but you know what I mean? Bands like that. And people like, no, like I was there, man. I was there when they got started. Like I was there from the beginning. They're invested in being the first because it gives them cultural credibility. And the same thing now, I'm seeing this with my own, and I bring this up for a reason. I haven't changed my position or values at all. Who I am today is exactly who I was prior to 2020. Yeah. And I've always been, the girl who was...
Couple more. It's just not exactly who you are.
I don't have wrinkles, but
it's very close.
I have grey hairs. Not wrinkles yet, thank God. Do you know why I don't have wrinkles? Funny tangent. It's a tangent.
Is this the bulldog clips at the back of your neck? Is that what they're for?
Go.
Tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time. If you can't tell, I'm losing my voice.
I never planned a tangent, but boy, when one pops up.
You have to be surprised. It has to be like surprise tangent.
Yeah, I can't plan a tangent.
No.
So my great-grandmother, she is the silent generation. She's long past. And she was the grandmother of my mum. So great-grandmother.
Okay. Yeah.
And I loved her. I used to call her Nana Papa. And she used to have one of those typical 60s, 70s houses with the shag pile rug, the old wooden everything, and you know how bars used to be built into stuff?
Yes.
And like the Coke bottle yellow glass.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
Right? Yeah,
that takes me back.
And so when we moved back to Australia, we didn't have our own house yet. So we were at my grandmother's house. And then obviously when my parents were at work, I would get shipped around to whoever was available.
Yeah.
So I used to go to my great-grandmother's house all the time. And she was a cards person. Oh. So she used to love playing some poker and canasta.
Oh, yes.
And she put out, she taught me how to play canasta. And she put in the middle of the table like an old jar of those Arnott's shortbread cookies.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so we would play canasta and eat cookies. And then it eventuated into poker.
Life.
Right?
Yeah.
This is one of my great memories from my childhood. And so we started playing poker because I was old enough to sort of understand how to play it.
Yeah.
And I had no poker face. And my grandmother's like, we need to teach you. So it became, she had the old 70s style glasses. And she made a comment, and to this day, I've never forgotten it. She's like, if you wear big sunglasses every day, you'll never get a wrinkle. She's like, that was her thing, right? She never not had sunglasses on.
Okay.
And she eventually got wrinkles, but she looked great for her age. She would have been in her 80s and 90s.
But you also end up looking like Donald Trump because you've got white panda eyes and the rest of you is tanned.
Anyway, so I took that advice to heart, and so much so I actually can't go out in bright sunlight without glasses. My eyes can't handle it.
See, I've actually made a point of not wearing glasses most of the time. I do sometimes, sunglasses,
that explains why you look like Leatherface.
In order to not damage my eyes, because your eyes actually need the challenge of UV. They actually need that as part of their
why you wear
staying
aviators.
Healthy. Now, can I go back to what I was talking about?
No, can I finish my tangent?
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, so now I always wear sunglasses and I don't have crow's feet because I don't squint.
That's why we had to go back for that.
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Okay, well, look, I'll let everybody else decide whether you've got crow's feet or not. I'm not going to comment on that.
I get accused of having Botox all the time, but...
All right, can we go back to what I was talking about with media?
If you must.
And the business model.
Okay.
Because here's the really interesting test. Have you ever seen someone who doesn't work at Woolworths or Coles walking around in branded merch? I'm really proud of it. No. Have you ever seen someone...
As in Woolies branded merch?
Yeah.
I will say, I have seen Bunnings people.
Okay.
I don't know if they were Bunnings staff, but Bunnings have their own hats.
No, there will be people who will wear Bunnings stuff.
Yeah.
People will wear Coca-Cola and Pepsi stuff. People will wear Ferrari and McLaren stuff. No one's wearing Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 9 as a fashion statement. Whoever in the media... Okay, but they will wear Topher Field, and they will wear Rebel News, and they will wear Carlz J Söda.
Yeah.
Whoever in the mainstream media figures out how to get people wearing Channel 10 or Channel 7 or whatever, the same way they wear Bunnings, the same way they wear Ferrari, the same way they wear Topher, that is the next media trillionaire, or the first media trillionaire, is the person who figures out how to do that at scale.
I think, I see it differently. I think with the democratization of access... and also the ability for people to do things like this. I mean, yes, you need a little bit of equipment, but the barrier to entry is quite low.
Very low.
And the other thing is, too, you think of the Titanic. This is the best example I could give. It's hard to steer, evidently. But whereas like a little jet boat or a jet ski, so much easier to maneuver. They see the iceberg and they're like, whoop. The Titanic's like, ah.
Yeah.
I look at mainstream media, big companies like that, in that way, it's impossible for them to steer it quickly and be dynamic. The reason being, like I keep saying, Albo can't get a score on the board because he used to rely on the media to then do the press conference and get it out. And it was scripted and there was time. It slowed down enough for them to be like, how are we going to present this to the public? We'll do it this way. We'll get in front of it.
Yeah.
It's always what people say, get in front of it. No, with social media, someone will hear it. It'll be up on X within seconds.
Yeah.
There'll be a reel about it in 4 minutes. There'll be a full long form YouTube video that night.
Yeah.
You cannot compete with speed
Yeah.
unless they unbridle people and they go, all right, you know what? And I've seen this now with the Herald Sun.
Right.
Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. I've got Instagram
so
here.
While you look for that, you can compete with speed, and that is through access and resources. So
that's the only thing.
The thing that these big networks have is the ability to put a camera on the ground for the big moment for X, Y, and Z, and bring you footage that then everyone else on the internet will then grab and use and show.
That's exclusivity. But that again, it doesn't slow people down because if you put the footage out there, people can clip it immediately.
Other people grab it. But the big institutional the reason why they will always have a place is because they will have the staff to go and send, and there will always be people that will then want to watch that because you'll see it first on their network. Once it's gone out on their network, everyone else grabs it. But that is speed. That is if they're the only one that actually had the resources to put the person on the ground to capture that moment, then they got the scoop on that.
Have a look at how this, it's the Herald Sun. I don't know what it's about. Oh, it's about the 30-kilometre zones.
Yeah.
Carlz government dropped $1 million to trial 30-kilometre speed limits at a heap of local streets, including the famous Chapel Street. We're told the speed cuts will make roads safer for pedestrians, cyclists and drivers across the state. Now, there's been a whole lot of opinions on this.
Anyway.
Yep.
Notice the editing style?
Oh, yeah. No, it's 100% new media Instagram.
100%. 100%. They recognise it's the way I do it.
Not quite TikTok. It is Instagram.
But it's still, do you know what the problem is? It still looks too slick.
It is professional. Now, I don't know that they would view that as a bad thing because they're not actually trying to compete for the same thing as us. They're not actually, we are not, strictly speaking, competitors of theirs.
We're not competitors, but they do want the same reach and virality.
Sure, and they'll get that with this. They won't get the authentic. They won't get the relationship.
No.
Right. So understand. People watch smaller operators for the individual.
Yeah.
They watch Topher Field. They watch Carlz J Söda.
For your hot take.
Well, no, they watch it in the same way that someone follows a blood sport. You're following the individual. You're championing the individual. People watch mainstream media the way that you follow a football team.
Yeah.
The individuals change. The faces come and go, but you're going to keep cheering for that team.
Yeah.
So there is actually a fundamental psychological difference between what someone's looking for when they watch the bigger networks.
Yeah, you don't have a connection to a Herald Sun journalist.
And so whilst that content might mimic the smaller operators and that stuff, that relationship's not being built because the type of person that's watching that isn't looking for that. That's actually not why they're there. They're following the team, not the individual.
Well, there's this whole discussion now, particularly in the marketing world, about authenticity, which I hate saying. It's another buzzword.
Once you can fake authenticity, you've got it made.
Yeah. But even with that, big brands now, I pay attention to this particularly in the luxury market because I find it fascinating. Luxury kept putting their prices up because too many people were getting access. The whole thing about it is exclusivity. And the middle class were able to access Chanel and that. You know, they had to save, but they could still get it. So now
that's no good for your brand.
Correct. So now the prices of Chanel bags are around $15,000. But the people who can afford that are like, hang on a minute, you're taking us for a ride because the quality is diminished because they still want volume.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So these big brands, to make them profitable, they do need volume and scale, but they also don't want people having access. So they're relying on a smaller market buying more expensive bags at scale than they are
still at scale.
Having a bigger market to purchase.
So what's interesting for me, the whole luxury space, I mean, yes, the price being the barrier to entry is partly the point. They're like, oh, how is that bag worth $30,000? Because they said it's worth $30,000, right? It's literally, that's what it is. You know, why would anyone pay so much for that thing? Because most people can't afford to pay so much for that thing. That is actually the point. The price tag is
it's a differentiation thing.
Yeah, but the price tag is actually one of the features of the product.
Yes.
Right. This is the price tag is the point. If that same item was being sold at a much more consumer price at exactly the same quality, nothing changed about the product at a consumer price, it would lose most of its appeal. And the people who are buying it at the exorbitant price would never touch it for this price. The price is the feature.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to the following a team versus following an individual this is why I say with Gina Reinhart buying a stake in media, if she wants to make money in media, some brands are able to get you to buy into the team.
Yeah.
That's what Ferrari have done.
Yeah.
That's what Bunnings have done compared to Coles and Woolies.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are people who they've bought into the team.
Do you know what did it for Bunnings?
Right? What?
The snags.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it is.
Yep.
The snags are ubiquitous.
Yep.
You go to a Bunnings, and if they don't have a sausage sizzle, it's sort of out. That's happened to me before. I was very upset about it.
So the media empire that manages, or the media that manages to figure out how do I get viewers to want to wear my team's branding in the same way that they wear individuals' branding, that will be the first media trillionaire.
I don't know if it's possible.
Well, I see. People would have said, "Oh, it's impossible." If I said, "Is it possible to get people to be running around in Coles and Woolworths branding?" Well, is it possible to get them to run around in Red Bull? Is it possible to get them running around in Bunnings? Is it possible? Like, it's actually like this is the luxury thing. It's like it's possible if you tell them that it's possible.
Red
It's
Bull's
kind of
different because their whole marketing is sponsoring outrageous.
Okay, Red Bull's different because they're not actually a drink company.
No.
Okay.
They're an extreme sport.
Ferrari's different because they're not actually a car company, right? This is the thing. So how do you take a media company and make it not actually a media company? I don't have the answer to that, but the person who figures it out, if you want to make money in media, the person that figures that out is the person who's going to make the money.
I also do think it's sort of the end of that era, to be honest. I mean, even the Daily Wire and all the new media companies are scaling back at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think you've decentralized it, not you, but it's been decentralized to a point where, like I said, just a kid in a bedroom can do what we're doing.
The age of the big bureau is over, and obviously the big print room, blah, 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 all of that's done. I agree with that. And there are companies that are being dragged down by their legacy infrastructure. They're not letting go of it fast enough. They're like, no, this is what makes us special. No, that's what makes you old. So, yes, there will always be room in the media space for institutional capacity, for an organization that has resources at its disposal. That, correctly directed, that company will always have an advantage over the likes of you and me. We are downstream.
Yeah, because they have resource.
Because of their resource. Yeah. And people will go to them because by definition they will be first.
I don't know this to be true. I'm just spitballing with you here. Let's just say it's Gina, for example.
Sure.
And Gina goes, you know what, legacy media doesn't have the stronghold that it used to, but I can identify that there's a whole host of independent creators who are doing a better job. They're more dynamic. They're able to jump on the topic quicker, but they all have their own little buckets that they are
their own target
niches,
markets,
right?
In the same way that different programs on Channel 10 each have their distinct target market. Yep.
And it's not so much influencing, because influencers are different. They live a life and it's aspirational, and therefore to obtain that aspirational life, you want to consume what they consume. But we're also getting to the end of that era as well, because people know it's disingenuous. Whereas your new independent media person, or your cultural commentator or political commentator, of which we both are, you're values-based. And you can't, you can fake values, but you slip up very quickly, which is why I've pointed out a whole host of people, like Denny's a really good example. What are your values, dude? Because you seem to change with the tide. Whereas, what I was saying before about I haven't changed my values since prior to COVID, or at all, is it was unfashionable then. But all of a sudden, my values that were unfashionable 5-6 years ago are sort of in vogue now. And my following is going up as a result. The content hasn't really changed a whole... I mean, my content's gotten better, but what I represent, what my opinions are, haven't changed.
So you've just touched on something that cuts to the heart of the Getting Ahead in the Game masterclass and the Values Week. And I actually posted in the school... section for the people that are doing my masterclass on exactly this topic. And I put to them the question, should I talk about this publicly or not? Like, will people who haven't done the course get this?
Yeah.
And they said, you should try and talk about it publicly. And I haven't yet. So this is it. This is me going, okay, let me see if I can make this work for people that haven't gone through the values section of the masterclass. Values, by definition, what are they? The key is in the name. There's something you value. How do you know you value something? Because you paid something for it.
Yeah.
It has to have cost you. You might think those are your values, but you don't know that they're your values until it's cost you something. This matters in moments like, for example, Pauline Hanson and One Nation. She, exactly what you said about yourself a moment ago, she was saying what she's saying now when it was costing her. When this was not a vote-winning proposition. This was a very unpopular proposition. She said it anyway. And so there's no question what her values are. There's no question what she believes in.
And you can't buy that authenticity.
Correct.
Because you can play clips of her from 30 years ago and it's the same as today.
But people who don't understand values, who do change with the times, they don't get that. And so what we're watching right now is the Liberal Party trying to plagiarise the policies because they think people have flocked to One Nation because of her policies. Well, the policies are they're the visible bit. But actually they've realised that she's right and they're now actually aligning with her values. Now, when the Liberal Party go, oh, we'll copy her policies, are they paying a price? No, they're not. They're actually trying. This is marketing. This isn't. They're not sacrificing.
No.
They're marketing. They're like, oh, vote for me because I'm like her. She's popular, and I'm like her now. Can I be part of the popular group now too? And so they can copy the policies all they like. They will never be judged to have those values. Because even no matter how faithfully they may plagiarize those policies, it's not costing them anything to do that. And that's the definition of what values actually are. So we end up in a situation. You're absolutely right, where there are people who chase their audience and they end up being left behind by their audience and eaten alive usually is how that goes. That's that trajectory. I've observed the trajectory of such people from start to finish is usually less than 3 years.
Yeah.
All right. Now, some last longer, like your Candace Owens.
Yeah.
All right. But most of these people, they're gone in under 3 years. That's been my observation over 17 years of doing this. The people that actually go, no, this is what I believe, and they walk through the tough stuff that comes with that, they are the ones who end up being rewarded enormously. And we're watching that play out at a national scale.
So what you're saying is I'm going to be a multimillionaire?
The rewards aren't necessarily financial. But you know what? If inflation keeps going the way it is, I've got great news for you. We will all be millionaires very, very soon.
Just have to carry around wheelbarrows of cash.
Hungry millionaires.
Yeah.
Hungry millionaires.
No less.
But we'll be on the Maduro diet. But
Excellent.
We will have so many zeros on our money, it's not funny.
Well, back to your authenticity thing. I do have something I really want to talk about. But back to the content stuff. What I've noticed now is a lot of people who would never have touched me 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Are all of a sudden following me, watching me. And in the last week specifically, when I did those first 2 woke videos and the trans one, I won't dob them in, but people that you'd be like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Right? And there's not necessarily conversations. I've talked to a couple of them. And I'm in this internal battle, and you'll see why in a second. I'm grateful that they're supportive, whatever. But also, they never had skin in the game. It didn't cost them anything. They still kept their lucrative contracts.
They might be shifting their position or revealing the position they always held, but it wasn't one of their values because they weren't willing to pay a price.
So I'm gonna take you on a bit of a journey, but we'll come back to what I really want to talk about. So Dave Hughes, we talked about him on Monday. He's a raging lefty. He's a rusted-on Labor voter.
Yep.
He even outed himself as having voted for Chalmers and Albo in the last election, and Jacinta. He voted for Dan Andrews. He's now outraged. He's pissed off. I trust Hughesy more than I trust people who are all of a sudden coming out as I've always been conservative. The reason I trust Hughesy is like the humility and going, I actually voted for these people. I thought they were right. Because Hughesy has recognised something that I think a lot of Australians are starting to get is I've been bullshitted, right? I voted for you at the last election because you presented to me what you stood for and your policies and you're doing the complete opposite.
And I made the mistake of believing you.
And that betrayal, like you will never get Hughesy back.
We were talking about that. Was it Monday? We were talking about that,
So that betrayal, whereas the other people, like all of a sudden you've got the Teals wanting to form a party because they're like, oh, well, we've always been anti-party, but now One Nation's a threat.
To their credit, 2 of their big ones have said no.
Yeah.
I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but that they might end up forming some sort of a party, but they'll be missing a couple of their key people, which probably means it won't go very far.
But again, this comes down to authenticity that you cannot fake. If your position has always been this, and then all of a sudden you go, well, we just changed our mind.
We've changed our position, like Albo.
Like Albo does. People go, but hang on a minute, I don't have a chance to re-vote for you. I don't have a chance to. You've changed your position, but that's not what I voted for.
Yeah. So you shouldn't change your position until we have the opportunity to change our position on who we vote for.
And now people are recognizing, and I've seen this commentary a lot online. People going, "Hang on a minute, this is not what I signed up for."
Right.
So where I want to go with that is, someone like Hughesy now all of a sudden has gained credibility. Now I wanted to bring this story up. Carl Stefanovic and his latest guest.
Yes.
I'm just going to play this.
Okay.
Killed you. It was assassination of Pete Evans. I don't know if I directly said anything about you being a whack job.
Get in line. I'm sure you weren't alone if you did.
Again, if I did, I'm terribly sorry.
You must have big balls to be able to come out and publicly apologise for your stance. I'm closed off to one-size-fits-all medicine, which is why
Anyway, you guys can go watch the episode.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this because you and I, we've had this chat to a degree. So Carl Stefanovic has crossed the Rubicon to some people.
Yeah, to a certain degree. And some people are very skeptical, and I understand the skepticism.
Yeah.
But this is now the second time that he's come out and really made a pretty clear, I was wrong and I'm sorry kind of statement.
Yeah.
And I've met him now a couple of times. We haven't spent a lot of time together, but I've met him a couple of times. I think this journey that he's on is absolutely genuine. It's still a journey, but it's absolutely genuine.
I agree. And something that I think we really need to drum into people like, oh, I know where Carl was during the vax. He was wrong.
Yeah, he was wrong.
And he knows he's wrong.
And he said as much.
If we keep alienating people who made bad choices, we're going to end up very lonely. The battle we're in is spiritual. It's governmental,
it's cultural.
It's across the board. We need allies, man, and we're not always going to get along, and we're going to have different storylines, and I've been on different trains at different points.
And by definition, if you're going to grow a movement, you have to allow people in who were previously not a part of that movement.
But what does it say for us if we're like, well, you were on the wrong side, so now you're definitely not allowed? I'm like, okay, so you're saying that no one's allowed to change their mind and have a coming to Jesus moment?
All right, I want to move on from that fairly quickly because we're very low on time. We can't go the full 3 hours today, and we haven't touched two of the topics we promised at the very start of the show. But you did just touch on one of them, which is Albo.
Okay.
And his change of position. Have you noticed that he's backing away from his promised tax changes? He is I feel like every couple of days we discover he's negotiating with another group of industries in order to design another carve-out to exempt them from the capital gains tax for various reasons.
His polls are in the absolute gutter.
His polls are in the toilet, but how badly have you stuffed up your policy development if you are now having to have negotiations on multiple fronts? You're fighting a battle on multiple fronts with multiple different industries that must have some kind of a point. Yeah. They must have, like, he would be digging in and saying, nope, this is our commitment, this is our, unless they actually had a point. Someone's in his ear and they're like, you've really fucked this up. And
well, he's fucked it up from two sides of the coin. So you've got the progressive younger generation who are, rightfully so, pissed off that they can't get into housing.
Yeah.
But they want him to go the other direction.
Yeah.
They want to see abolishing privatisation of rental properties. They want to see it more collective.
Well, they want to see it as a public good.
Yeah.
So to my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected on this if I've missed something, but to my knowledge, he's not talking about changing what he's planning to do with regard to the family home. But let's not forget the capital gains tax reforms that he wants to ram through apply to a massive array of asset classes, including businesses and big and small investments of various types, including property. And it's these other areas where I think, I think he wanted to change it for houses. And at some point someone said, well, we should just do it across the board, like capital gains tax across the board. We should just reform the whole thing. He's like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds fair. Let's do that. Now he's discovering that actually real life is very complex. And simple policies don't work in lots of contexts, and suddenly he's got this problem.
Have you seen this?
The internet? I'm familiar with it.
No. So Albo, I'm trying to find the original clip. He mocked someone for not being able to buy a home and saying it's their fault. So I think it's this one.
Written in about how Labor's tax changes will affect him. He says, quote, I'm 39 and supporting a young family with 2 children. I've been carefully investing in various high-growth assets over the last 10 years so that we may one day afford the Australian dream, our own home. Prime Minister, why is Labor's budget of broken promises and higher taxes punishing Aaron and his family who are just trying to get ahead?
Aaron is 37 years old.
On my left.
39 years old. 39 years old, so chances are Aaron's been in the workforce for 20 years but has been unable to secure his own roof over his head.
Question is to...
Blaming Aaron for being 39 and not having his own home because he's a bit of a failure.
Okay, so how in the world he thought that was a good idea amazes me.
No, this is the thing. It's mask off. That's what he thinks. When people tell you what they really think, believe them. That's what Albo thinks.
Is that what he thinks? Or is that just what he thought was the clever riposte?
No, I think it's because he was in the heat of the moment and the mask slips. When you're hot under the collar, it's a lot harder to be more poised and...
No, I agree, which is why I wonder whether he just reached for the thing that seemed clever at the time inside of his head.
The issue with Albo is, right, he's Mr. I grew up in social housing, single mother, all that kind of crap. But Albo's been on the public teat for, almost 35, 40 years?
You know what's funny? There's this narrative, young people belong to the left.
Yeah.
Right, they're lefties, and we've talked about why that is. The home is a socialist institution, and kids have to grow up, and that takes time. And so there is this progression from being more left to less left over time. Albo and that attitude and what he's doing with housing is likely to accelerate the move of younger people, not necessarily teenagers, but of mid-20s to mid-30s. I think Albo might find that he's actually accelerating their shift away from the Greens and Labor if he keeps going like this on housing.
I think only the ones who work in the private sector I think
which is still a majority. Let's be clear. Like the government is enormous and oversized, but it is still a minority employer compared to the private sector.
Because I've noticed this with the little socialists commenting on my reels and stuff. If they're funded through something that is what's the word I'm looking for? Is stable, whether it's an NDIS payment, a Centrelink payment, or it's a government paycheck. Your paycheck doesn't change and it's always there.
Yeah.
When you're in the private sector, you might get made redundant. You might want to move on. You might need to take a pay cut. You might need to move houses, suburbs or whatever. Like there's all these different variables that happen when you're employed.
That can happen. A lot of those can happen in the government. Not so much getting retrenched, but having to move for your job can happen.
Yes and no, but you're also very handsomely rewarded for that.
They're overpaid, yes.
And they get their expenses. But when you're employed in the private sector, a lot of companies can't compete with that. They can't give you a six-figure salary plus a six-figure expense budget and all these other perks. But so what I've noticed is if people have really stable income in the sense of, like I said, NDIS, Centrelink or public sector, they're so much more cavalier with people's financial positions.
Yeah, and very dismissive of the realities that other people face. Yes.
Yeah. So during the GFC, 2007, the GFC hit Australia and I was working for news, right? Yeah. So the company I worked for was News Magazines back when it was, big, publishing was still big. And so the order came down from above that we had to take away a third of our workforce. Yeah, wow. And you had people, that was back when some of the boomers had still been there for 30, 40 years. And so my direct boss, so I took a maternity position. I was never meant to be there like full-time or permanent. And it just so happened that because I had worked at Fairfax prior, I understood the software so I could hit the ground running. I was well and truly underqualified and had not enough experience. But I was on, I think I was 22 and I was on 70K at 22.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of money.
That's like nearly 70 years ago now when you were 22.
Correct. So that was almost $1 million. Anyway, and so when that order came down from above, we were a small team of 50. They had a bigger team in Sydney. And Sydney, they went through and just chopped them down.
Yeah, wow.
And then I remember our boss sat there and said, who do we get rid of? And my boss put herself up. She's like, I've been here almost 40 years. It's my time to go. Don't get rid of Carly.
Yeah, wow.
Carly needs to be here. She's the next generation, whatever. And I didn't really think of that back then. I didn't really think a whole lot about that. I was very young, and I remember thinking, it's probably time for you to retire. It's time to move on, Boomer. Only because she was OG. So there was, and just to explain that a bit more, just so I don't sound like an entitled brat, that was at that real transition.
You still sound like an entitled brat.
No, it was a massive shift from being analog to digital.
That was when it was going from scissors and sticky tape and copy machines into non-linear digital asset editing.
And I remember being in a meeting arguing that Vogue needed to have a website blog.
Oh, wow.
That's where we were at.
Yeah.
So they had a presence. They had the domain name, and it was like, buy our latest issue. Not like, hey, we're going to put the magazine online. And I remember arguing that's how people consume now. This is 20 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
And my boss was like, oh, no, people will always buy magazines. I'm like, not if they can get it on this bloody thing. This hadn't even been invented yet. It was, I had a Sony Ericsson. You'd flip it up. And for the very first time, you could access the internet as a browser.
I remember the very first phones with browsers, and they were absolute dogs because no website was optimized for these teeny tiny screens.
And you had to
trying to navigate your cursor across and click the thing you wanted. It was an absolute crapshoot. And then data was so expensive.
Yeah. And you accidentally on the internet, you're like, oh my God, get off.
So for the kids watching, there was a time when you had to pay per text message. There was a time in my lifetime.
And they had a character limit.
And I was paying 50 cents for every text message I sent. And there was a period of time, I think this was only brief, where you also got charged for the text messages you received.
I don't remember that.
There was both a sender and a receiver charge. That might not have been universal, but I used to sell phone plans when I worked at Clive Peters. And there was a time.
Yeah. And so this is the thing. There was a massive shift. That was a huge time. But those redundancies and whatnot, I can't remember where I was going. Oh, about people being cavalier. And, those things happen. I was on a really good wicket. I was on good salary. And then all of a sudden I did actually have to drop my days. I went from 5 days a week down to 3.
Okay.
And I did have a pay cut, but compared to what, I should have been getting. It was much more online. And then I went across to a different company and I took a pay cut again because I knew that if I stayed there too long, I would...
You get institutionalized.
Correct. And so I was like, no, I need to go into a more dynamic role that required a $15,000 pay cut. And I took it and it like stuffed me because I'd been spoiled. And, I think people misunderstand that to go where you want in a career, sometimes you have to put the foot to the board. Other times you need to put your foot on the brakes. Sometimes you need to take a U-turn. Sometimes you need to come back around the different way.
Circle back.
To get where you want to go. Whereas someone like Albo, he has one trajectory. I'm in the young Labor. I want to be Prime Minister. And it's like up, and you keep getting pay increases. That's not how it works in the real world.
Not in the private sector. So I want to talk housing for a second because that's the other thing we promised to talk about. So firstly, the Albo thing with the capital gains tax and the carve-outs that he's having to now negotiate with specific industries, this is a no-win situation for him. It's a developing story. I'm not going to break it down what's happening because honestly it will have changed again by tomorrow. But he is trapped now.
Yep.
There is no good way forward for him from here, and the collateral damage is just going to build and get bigger. I released a video onto my YouTube channel at Topher Field yesterday about this is how we save Australia. This is how we get rid of Albo. Albo's changes to negative gearing specifically are the key to getting rid of him. This absolute emerging clusterfuck that is coming out of the changes to capital gains tax. Well, that's just bonus. That's just gravy on top. It's going to make it even easier. But I want to talk housing for a second because everyone knows housing is overpriced. Renting is about to suck even worse for a little while because, you don't make things cheaper by making them more expensive. I didn't think that was a controversial thing to say, but you don't make renting a house cheaper by making it more expensive to own a rental house. Like this is like Life 101. How have we got people in their 50s and 60s running this country who haven't figured that out yet? I don't understand. Now, there are precedents to prove this. Number one, in 1985, Australia abolished capital gain, negative gearing, on investment properties, which means that the cost of holding an investment property went up. Guess what happened to rents? Skyrocketed.
Yeah.
2 years later, they reversed the policy. Same treasurer. This is Keating as treasurer. This is Hawke as prime minister. Same people 2 years later went, that was dumb. And they restored negative gearing before they had to face an election because they knew how much it was going to cost them. The same thing happened in much more recently, 2021 in New Zealand. Jacinda Ardern, bless her little cotton socks, she decided that negative gearing was evil. She abolished it, and she had this plan for a ramp down where you'd still be able to claim some of the interest expenses, but over time that would diminish. Even though she had a ramp down on this, the rents absolutely skyrocketed because the market prices in anticipation. It can see the future when you give them a timeline like that. And so, of course, they got priced in. Rents hit record highs right across the country. Then the current government, Luxton, was elected in December 2022. He had campaigned on a promise to restore negative gearing for rental properties. And as soon as he was elected, even before his reforms had begun to take effect, the rate at which rents were climbing began to drop off a cliff. They were still climbing, but the rate began to drop off a cliff. By the end of 2023, less than a year or only a year into his government, they went negative and the actual amount of rent being paid began to decline in New Zealand. And it's been pretty good ever since.
I hate saying this, but New Zealand's looking more and more like a better deal at the moment.
No capital gains taxes, negative
way
gearing
prettier landscape, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And the advantage of a bigger country, New Zealanders used to come here because there was more opportunity. Well, I'm sorry, in the age of global e-commerce, the opportunity is now everywhere if you're in the right kind of business. Not for everybody, but for the right kind of business. There are opportunities everywhere. Let me finish on Canada because they, I think, are the real example of what can be done. Now, people object when I talk about Canada. They say, oh, yeah, but it's government money. The government is funding all sorts of X, Y, and Z. Yes, that's true. But actually, if you look at the reforms they've done, they didn't need to spend the government money because they've actually done more than just about anyone else that I'm aware of to begin to address the underlying problem. And once you fix the underlying problem, private money will invest into affordable housing. So what do they do in Canada? Well, they released land. They did a bunch of rezoning that basically meant you got default approval for duplexes and other higher density on suburban block type of developments. But they also allow dedicated construction for renters. They allow, and they actually have now tax incentives for investors, by definition, to build low-cost housing. And you know how you make housing more affordable? Build it for a lower price. That's how you do it. And so over here, we say every house has to have a minimum standard. They've all got to be a certain size block, That sounds really nice. And what people assume will happen is that means that even the poorest people will live in a house like this. No. What it means is anyone that can't afford a house like this ends up in a car or a tent. Yeah. That's the reality of it.
I was having this argument with someone a couple of days ago, actually, because we were talking about that. And I said, you do realise that by having all the mod cons and access to everything, it makes housing unachievable for a lot of people who just can't get that. And I said, we've abolished so many houses that, you and I might not want to live in, but for a lot of people, they would have been perfectly acceptable with it.
Okay, so I handle that one. Oh, would you want to live in a house like that? No, I don't want to live in a house like that, which is why I work hard to earn the money that I do. But if something were to happen to me and I were to fall down the economic pecking order, ill health, accident, retrenchment, something like that, I would like to know that I'm not going to end up in a car with my family.
Yeah.
I would like to know that I'm going to end up in a 3-bedroom unit on a tiny block of land that doesn't have air conditioning. Yes, please. I'd like to know that the bottom rungs of the ladder still exist.
The example I gave was a divorcee, right? Let's say you've been married for 20 years and you get divorced. There's still kids, right? So you go, the man goes, there's still kids. You have the family home and, I'll contribute to helping that mortgage get paid as part of my child support or whatever, but I need to go get something much more friendly for me and, economical. If there is nothing but 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses and you've gone from having combined income, let's just use round number of 200,000 to now, the mum doesn't work as much and she's on maybe like 80,000, but the dad earns the extra 120,000 or whatever. He's now paying for that and this. But there's no cheaper option.
There's no budget version.
Yeah. It's like, hang on a minute. So what's the solution? And then it's like, we'll go live in a bedsitter. Okay, but he has 2 kids.
Or a share house or what have you. Like that doesn't work.
So what happens with the kids?
Yeah. So this is what Canada figured out. Release land, make it more accessible. Streamline approvals so that you can do more by default. You don't have to go through this lengthy, expensive process just to get permission. Encourage investors. So they slashed GST, their consumption tax, on construction for rental properties. So it's an explicit tax incentive or an explicit tax cut for investors. So instead of adding taxes to investors, they've cut them. Now, as a libertarian, I say they should have just cut them across the board. Why? They shouldn't favor one group over another, but that's what they did. And by lowering the cost of construction for rental properties, and having a category where it allows them to build this stuff cheaper. It doesn't have to have all the features. It doesn't have to have all the stuff. Do you want to live in a house with no air conditioning? Do you want to live in a house that doesn't have insulation in the walls? Not really, but I'd rather live in a house with no insulation in the walls than in a car with no insulation in the walls.
Or in a tent.
That's actually what's happening in Australia. We've got these little tent cities beginning to pop up. Canada, rents and property values have been declining now. Now, the other thing that they did do is that they have more significantly restricted immigration. All right. So that is part of the immediate, that's going to have an effect.
It makes sense.
But that by itself doesn't fix the problem.
No.
You fix the problem by actually fixing the problem.
May I introduce an idea that I think might actually fix it?
I see.
I'm not the best at talking about this.
Have we solved all the world's problems?
I think so. Okay. I'm just going to hand it to my friend Zohan Memdani.
Oh, yeah.
He has a better way.
I meant to ask him about what his thoughts were on housing.
So let's have a listen to him.
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers. And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So private property is now a matter of stewardship and collective ownership. And if the collective aren't happy with how you're managing your private property, then we'll hand it over to the collective. That doesn't sound like Marxism at all.
Not even a little bit. But you know what's even better than that? In a lot of places in America, they actually have a thing called squatters' rights. So you might have a home that you use a couple of times a year when you have a vacation, but a squatter can get in there and just go, you know what, this is my house now. And do you know what squatters typically do?
Mow the lawn and keep the weeds out of the garden and the gutter's clean?
Typically, they'll inject heroin, have debaucherous parties.
Into what?
Smash walls, graffiti things.
So what are they injecting heroin into? That seems like heroin's expensive. They're just like spraying it around, are they? Or
into their veins.
Oh.
Yeah, they usually become drug dens. They usually become, meth labs and,
I think I'm starting to see the problem now.
Yeah. So typically the people who resent the private ownership and resent the rich person, which is anyone that's got more money than them, they don't typically respect the property of that person. They actually do the complete opposite.
Yeah, funny that. And I think of Purple Pingers and his attitudes. And this is the thing. If you actually fix the supply crunch, owners who maintain or who fail to maintain their properties, owners who offer horrible living conditions will end up vacant.
100%.
You know why they're not vacant? Because the city is restricting supply and making everything else so damned expensive.
But not only that, like the cost of fixing the building is too high that the actual landlords can't afford it. So you talk about negative gearing and things like that. That's because the cost of having that property.
Okay, but that's where in a functioning market you need this thing called creative destruction. You need the ability to tear down what's there in order to create something better. Now, across the economy in, let's say, a given industry sector, that means that the worst 10% of businesses are going bankrupt at any given moment in time. And that then creates the renewal. You've got to destroy the bad about what's there. The same's true in architecture. The same's true with buildings.
Yeah.
Now, if we make it difficult for developers to get approvals, to be able to if it's uncertain, what am I going to be allowed to do on that block? Well, we're going to have to talk to the city for a couple of years to find out to this and that. That's going to really stifle the ability of someone with a rundown building who can't afford to even renovate it, where living conditions are getting really bad, to be able to turn around and go, you know what? I'm out. I'm going to sell this as an opportunity, as a fixer-upper, subject to council approval, to a developer. And people go, oh, evil developer evicts all of the tenants and leaves them, he doesn't care about what happens. No. We need to tear this thing down.
Yeah.
This is a part of the process. Those people need to find a different place to live, because what's going to end up here is a place where lots more people are going to live in much better conditions. And that's never going to happen if we don't actually give the developer the confidence to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to buy that block because I'm confident that I know that I can make money out of this.
Speaking of NIMBYs, right? So I used to live on Bluff Road in Hampton, or just off it. And there were what were known as the ghetto. It was literally scary, old school commission.
Yeah.
And they were actually built, we've had this conversation before, but they were built for returning veterans from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And, the old fiberglass.
It's all right. I grew up near the old Olympic Village that was built for the Melbourne Olympics back in the day. I am familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rough as guts. Lots of crime, lots of all that sort of stuff. Anyway, they were condemned, and I remember us talking about this because in the unit block that I lived in, the Victorian government bought one of the units and made it a commission house, and it was $1 million purchase. They put one person in. I remember having this conversation with you, and I really liked John, the guy they put in there. He was from the commission houses, and he got put into that lovely unit, and the people who sold it was a couple that had renovated it from the ground up. It used to be an old 70s style unit, and they had a kid, so they had to leave. And so the government bought it for just shy of $1 million. I think it was $920,000, and put one person in it. That's how our taxpayer money gets spent. And then what they've done is they've knocked down those units, and I can't remember how much they used to hold. I'm going to say 200 people. They're going to put 1,500 people there. And so all the NIMBYs were like, no, this is terrible. We can't do this. I'm like, I don't know. It's already pretty bad. And so the new rules, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to have private owners in there as well as public housing, so that
I don't
you
know,
get
but there
ghettos.
is they've done some things about sort of mixed.
So I think it had to be I think it's 60% private ownership, 40% government house. I can't remember, but something like that. And so they're building these new apartments and stuff, and I haven't seen them since I left. And I drove past it the other day, and I'm like, wow, that it used to be an eyesore. It used to be something you drive past and lock your doors, and now it's this whole new apartment complex. And it's you don't normally hear me giving the government credit, but it's a lot better than it was, and it's going to put more people in there. From what I understand, more people than what were previously there, not just privately. And all the NIMBYs of Hampton were like, oh, this is going to make our values go down, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, I can see why the younger ones get really pissed off.
You're really jaded.
Yeah, because that's the attitude. And we had a Teal, Zoe Daniel, she lost the election. And, you know, she drove the Porsche and all that sort of stuff. And so it's one thing to say, oh, we need to do something about housing, but not in our area.
Oh, yeah, no.
And in Victoria at the moment, I'd be interested to hear your point of view on this. The Labor government has decided they're going to build some high-rise towers in these blue enclaves.
Yeah.
So Kew, Brighton, apparently one like right on Church Street, Brighton, which is their main shopping area.
Yeah.
And all the NIMBYs are out. No. And I'm like, hang on a minute. What is your solution? So the poor people have to live an hour and a half away?
Yeah, correct. That is their solution. And then they're like, why doesn't the local shop have enough staff?
Yeah.
Because the people that can survive on a shop attendant's wage can't live here.
Yes.
You know, and people go, oh, so you must be a socialist. You don't believe in capitalism then, because you know you're buying into this kind of idea that people should be able to afford to live near where they work. No. In a functioning market, there would be a property type that would be affordable across a pretty broad spectrum of incomes in any given area.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we've got planning that then says, oh, well, this area is going to be like this. And now they're all expensive people, all expensive homes.
And they're all 4-bedroom homes.
And we're gonna make developers go through a 3-year painful process. Time is money. So now they have to add an extra $100,000 to the cost of each of the blocks just to cover the time cost of all the loans that they have.
The average rent's like
the
$700-800.
average rent now goes through the roof, etc.
Yeah.
So no, in a free market, people for the most part will be able to live where they work, and they can't actually because the government has tried to make things better.
Brighton, I don't know about Kew and all those places very well, but I know about Brighton. And you have two types of rich in Brighton. You have the new rich and you have the old rich. And the old rich are asset rich, cash poor.
Yep.
And they have these McMansions. Or they're not McMansions, they're old mansions.
Yeah.
And they're dilapidated.
Yeah.
They're falling apart. They need a lot of roofing work.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everything's like old and tired and they can't afford to fix it up.
Yep.
And I'm like, hang on a minute. So you're offended. This is what I say to a lot of Brighton people. I am a libertarian and I am a conservative in some parts, but this part is probably where I lean a little bit more lefty. I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are that you have the ownership of all this area? Like, why do you think that you deserve...
No, that's not lefty. That's libertarian.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, hang on. So you've got what they call the Golden Mile, which is that stretch of Brighton, right? Yeah. And, okay, the people who live on that, great, you've got the beachfrontal property, you've got the money to pay for it. But I'm like, so no one else deserves to live near the beach unless they're multimillionaires?
All right, we need to finish on this, but let me dive into this just for a minute because this is really important. People say, I don't want higher density because it'll devalue my property. And they think that they're entitled, therefore, to control what other people do with their private property. No, you can't develop it in that way because that'll affect me. And some people argue, well, that's an externality. That is affecting the value of their property, blah, blah, blah. And they try and find ways to justify it. I'm a hardline no on that. Largely because I'm a hardline private property person, but also because the logic is actually completely wrong. Find me an example in Australia where higher density has not led to higher values in the main. There will be only a handful of exceptions related to crime or drugs or these sorts of things. The most valuable stuff we have has more people around it. Yeah. See, here's the funny thing. The reason it's valuable is because lots of people want to live there. The reason it's valuable is because lots of people are around there. The reason it's valuable is, it's got all the amenity. Yes. Why does it have the amenity? Well, because it makes sense to spend money on infrastructure and restaurants and everything else when there's lots of people there. Yes. The reason your house is worth as much as it is today is because lots of other people live around you. How dare you blame them? How dare you? In fact, you owe them.
Yep.
The reverse is true. You should have to pay all the people that moved into that apartment block behind your house for adding to the value of your property. If you really want to talk about externalities.
Yeah.
Right? The increased density adds to the value of your property over time in almost every single case, with very, very rare exceptions. The entire idea that I moved into this area when it looked like this and it has to freeze in time. It has to stop in this moment. Otherwise, you're harming me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're costing me. The logic is upside down. The arrogance is off the charts. And this is one of that if you can't tell, that really pisses me off.
That pisses me off too. Yeah. Because I'm a perfect example of that. Like I'm not so much now, but I needed to be close proximity to the city.
Yeah.
And I also happen to love the beach.
Yep.
And I'm not a multi-millionaire, but I think I should be able to have access within 10 to 15 minute drive to a beach. And they were saying that, so a lot of the old, 3-4 unit little blocks, the old granny flats,
they're knocking
them all down and putting up all these big things
and
now.
And they're putting up 2- and 3-story townhouses, yes.
And the rents for those are like $900, $2,000, $1,200, whatever. And you sort of go, okay, cool. So I can't participate in this area. So all the young people that you want to do the cafes and the cool shops, because that's beneath you, we can't do that anymore. Guess what? You're gonna like you said, Church Street will die.
Yeah. And so what's missing in this as well? So those 2, 3, 4 units to a block. I grew up in Preston, inner northern suburbs of Melbourne, and every 4th or 5th block was a set of units of some form. And units, in my understanding as I grew up, were usually brick, often separate. Sometimes they had common walls, but they were often actually separate. 3, maybe 4 to a block. Humble little things with a little backyard with the Hills hoist in it. And single story, and they were usually occupied by pensioners or little old ladies of the neighbourhood kind of deal. And this was how people on low incomes were able to live in relatively. We're talking Preston. This is now considered very much inner city, because the actual building was humble.
Yeah.
Now, what's happened now, of course, is that land has gone up in value, so now it's worth it for a developer to tear all of those down and build the 3-4 story, little McTownhouse nonsense. But we're not letting people build the humble little unit anywhere. Not even on the outskirts, not even in Clyde and where the new... No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have the 4-bedroom home on the block of land with this teeniest, tiniest backyard that they can legally manage, with the biggest possible house. And you have McTownhouses.
Yep.
Why? Well, townhouses are actually quite expensive to build. The problem is the land is so expensive that you can't afford to not maximize your return.
Yeah.
So you have to do everything.
You make it a 4-bedroom townhouse that you couldn't put a bed in.
Yeah, correct. And that is literally true at times. There's some horror stories out there. Yeah. So what's the solution? If the land itself was cheaper, then the need to squeeze is lower.
Yeah.
The cost to the risk to reward, the cost to benefit ratio of paying to go up a story, changing the structure so it can take the load, losing floor space to the stairwell, the various penalties that you pay to build a 2-story house starts to be a lot less attractive if the land component is only worth half as much.
Yeah.
You're better off to actually move fast, build them fast, turn them over quicker, and sell them as a single story. Cheaper and more affordable housing begins with changes in regulations and planning, but also ultimately with having more affordable land, because that changes the equation for the people developing.
Yep.
That is entirely government.
Yep.
That's about land release, that's about zoning, that's about planning approvals and building codes. It's all government. We could have affordable housing, humble little homes being built 3 or 4 to a block all over the place.
Yep.
It doesn't stack up financially. That's why it's not happening right now, and that's 100% on the government.
100%. Anyway, well done.
Cool. I got to go because I'm losing my voice, and I got to get back to home and begin the downhill run towards my 9-week tour of the US.
Yeah.
That's slightly scary.
Yeah, 9 weeks is a long time.
9 weeks is a long time, but it didn't make sense not to do it that way because I've got 4 conferences over that span. Mm-hmm. And once you start looking at airfares to get back and forth and everything else. So I'm still trying to fill in the gaps. I've got some gaps where I'm trying to get podcasts and other things. And I mean, I've got to make content as well. I've still got to be looking at Australian politics and doing what I do and producing those videos, but also just sort of get out and see a little bit of America. And
what states are you going to?
California, North Carolina, Florida, Texas. I'll be going to Washington. I'll be ducking over to the US state of, what's it called? Oh, that's right, London.
The US, you mean the ISIS state?
The ISIS state of London, yes. No, I'm heading over to the ARC conference over there. So that'll be interesting. And then I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to be playing poker in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Just like at a cash table because I can. But I'm an avid poker player. I used to play it a lot. I haven't played it more recently, and I've never played it outside of Australia. So I'm like, you know what? Las Vegas, place to do it.
Okay, make sure you set a limit.
Oh yeah, no, don't you worry. I know.
Don't you be putting it all on black.
No. I'm not going to be putting my return ticket home to Australia on the table. Yeah. Don't you worry about that.
I've seen too many of those movies.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, guys, we'll see you Monday night. Not with him.
Grift. Click the thing.
Kofi, thank you. We've had a lot of coffee supporters.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That keeps this show going.
Yep.
And back on the slow growing thing. We're growing and it's not meteoric, but I don't actually want it to be. I think I prefer it this way.
It's solid. I think we're on a good thing. We really appreciate you guys following us, watching us, commenting, all of that. And we'll see you next time.
We have a new host on Monday, so I think you guys will enjoy it.
New host. No, you have a pale imitation of a host on Monday. Actually, I don't know who it is. I don't know if they're pale. They might be a tanned imitation of a host, but they're not going to be as good as me.
Okay.
We all know.
We hope. You hope. Anyway.
Yeah. When I get back to Australia, Carly's going to be like, who dis?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
New phone.
Yeah.
Who dis? That's if you get back in the country.
That's if I get back in the country.
Yeah, Albo might be like, sorry, need to revoke your citizenship.
Yes, we've seen our opportunity to be rid of that nasty Topher.
Yes. All right, guys, thank you so much. See you
Ciao.
Monday night, 7:30.
Bye.